Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, August the 21st, regular council meeting at 7 p.m. Our invocation will be led by Pastor, Police Chaplain Dane Johnson. My right, please. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. And then our pledge of allegiance will be led by Councilman James Tillman. All right.
Before I do pray, sometimes in our zeal to get started with business, and tonight as we pray, we want to remember those people, some of those folks. For instance, Manuel Cervantes, who passed away yesterday. And tonight we want to pray and remember his family, Manuela, and the rest of the family as we pray. And also folks that we'll be remembering later who have served our community faithfully. These are why we do what we do here this evening. So would you bow your heads with me as we pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the men and women of our community who make up the citizens of this community, who encourage one another and lift one another up and make us who we are. And tonight we are saddened to learn that we've lost Manuel, and we pray for his family now, and we ask your peace to be upon them. And we pray, Father, for him as well. And Lord, in the name of Jesus and by the power of his resurrection, that they would know that you are with them all the way through this. And Father, tonight as we gather in this place to discuss very important business, we ask that you would give wisdom and discernment to those that you have chosen to lead us and to be our servant leaders. We ask that they would do so well tonight and from a position of humility serve the community that has elected them. And Lord, would you help us as the community to honor them with the respect that is due them. We pray this all in the name of Jesus. Amen. Amen.
Please turn and face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart and begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Spence?
Here.
Councilmember Toma?
Here.
Councilmember Warshaw? Here. Mayor Pro Tem Wu?
Yep.
Mayor Johnson?
Here. Reporting out from closed session, Madam City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Direction was given. No reportable action was taken in closed session this evening.
Thank you. Any changes to the agenda, City Manager?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two items to be changed this evening. One is in the minutes of the July 3rd, 2018 meeting, there was a vote on the city clerk and city treasurer ballot measure, which was item number 14 on the agenda. It has Mayor Pro Tem Wu listed as voting both in favor and against the measure. So he was listed twice. The minutes should be amended to show his vote against only, not in favor. So we'll have the city clerk amend those. There's no reason to pull those minutes off the agenda. We'll just amend them as part of your motion. Second item is item number 13, the department head resolution of salary and benefits.
Was that the same meeting he voted for and against?
It was
an error in the posting of the agenda.
Because there were different meetings where he voted for and then he voted against, and so.
Yeah, no, it's listed on that one item.
One? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Good.
Yes, on page 16 of the minutes, if you'd like to see it for that meeting.
No.
And then also on item number 13, department head resolution of salary and benefits. I've had a chance to talk to the department heads. They wish to pull that item. We'll bring it back at one of your September meetings for further discussion.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we have one presentation. Chief, you come on down.
Okay.
Take it away, buddy.
Good evening, everybody. Well, first of all, it's an honor to be here tonight to recognize one of our retiring officers. He's leaving us for a great career opportunity. He's going to USC. So if we have any UCLA fans in the house, don't boo him too much and everything. But Dave Reyes is retiring after 17 years with our department. He started in 2001. He came over from LAPD, and we stole him from them. And it's just done a really good job the whole time. Dave's had a lot of different assignments in the department. He's worked as a school resource officer, detective, mental evaluation team person. He's a weaponless defense instructor, and he actually was awarded a life-saving award in 2014. So we're really going to miss him. Dave's one of those special people that every day he comes to work, he just has a great attitude, and he really represents the community well, has a passion for the city and the police department, and he's definitely going to be missed. So with that, I'll let Dave say a few words. First, Mayor.
Before he does, I want to give you this recognition, David. The City of West Covina and the City Council is pleased to recognize David Reyes for over 17 years of consistent and commemorable service to our community, July 31st, 2018. I want to thank you so very much.
I started my career in LAPD, like the chief said, and my wife and I bought our first house in West Covina. And what drew our attention to West Covina was how the police department actually went about just helping the public out. And we had 2 calls for service, and that actually attracted my attention. My wife, who's here in the building, and her parents, well, my wife was born and raised in West Covina, and she had nothing but good things to say about West Covina. Sorry. And that's what attracted me to the men and women of this department, and I learned a lot. I obtained a lot of experience and skills, and I'm passing them on, hopefully, as I moved on to USC. So thank you very much, sir, and I appreciate giving me the opportunity to work for this department.
Thank you. We also have one more thing as a parting gift. We have Reyes Drive presented from the city. And obviously, you'll be able to hang that up, probably in your office at USC, I'm sure, right? Or
Okay.
Where's everybody? Where's everybody? The school's back. She was paying. And I think we're on board communications now. True. At this time, I have an adjournment motion. Tonight, we would like to, I'm sorry. We've already done that. We had the chaplain do it.
The chaplain made the introduction. If you want to go ahead so that we have
Okay,
the
let's go ahead and do
formal
it so it's on
adjournment,
record,
that'd be
okay?
great.
Okay, tonight we would like to adjourn our council meeting in the honor of Emmanuel Cervantes, father of West Covina resident Lola Finley. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the Emmanuel's family. Madam City Clerk, please make these notes.
Will do.
Okay, I think now we're moving on to the consent calendar, or communications, I mean. I'm sorry. We're all mixed up tonight. We got it. Sorry, we got out of closed session too fast. I just got kind of confused. Yeah, we're moving on to our communications. Madam City Clerk.
Our first speaker tonight is Herb Redholz, followed by Jim Grivich.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. You know, the ink is not even dry yet on by-district voting. And we're already aware that the wisdom of the voters back in 2009 to overwhelmingly reject districts was the right thing to do. Because as we see with by-district, if the purpose of, you know what, we got sold a bill of goods. It's not as it was advertised to be. If the intent of it was to open the doors and bring in more people, get more people involved, it certainly doesn't look that way at this point. Out of 3 districts that are on the November ballot, only one is competitive. Only one has more than 2 candidates. And if you look at the 5 candidates, we have the incumbent, and then we have others that have run before, been on this council, served in other elected offices, and we really only have one new individual who's currently serves as a commissioner. So that's fine, that's one thing. Then if you go to district number 4, you have, and district number 5, you have incumbents that are facing a lone challenger in each district. In District 4, if Dario doesn't step up and run against Councilman Toma, he doesn't have to make his case to the voter. He could simply just get a pass and walk in. In District number 5, if Sykes doesn't step up and run against Mayor Pro Tem Wu, he's got a free pass. The point being, in addition to districts being a bad idea, this proves the point beyond anything else that there is a strong need for term limits. I brought this up once before. It didn't go very far, but this is the fear that I have as we go forward, continuing with by-district elections. You're going to have entrenched incumbents where there's going to be either no challenger at all, or you're going to have potentially weak challengers. This, as we go forward, it's too late for this election cycle for November, but there's a real possibility, and I have the fear that potentially you could have council members there, if not for life, for as long as they want to be there. Because just right out of the box, 2 out of the 3 districts, you have a single challenger, which also begs the question, if there's so much concern about how things are going in this city, if things are so, if you follow social media, this place is a dump, why aren't those people stepping up to challenge? To say, you know what, I can do a better job. They're not even doing that. So this is my concern. And we're kind of stuck with districts, at least for now. The voters were right 9 years ago to reject it, big time, overwhelmingly reject it. But the fear is that we're going to not even have competitive elections as we go forward, unless we come up with what I suggested, and I think there's some support for 3 terms, 12 years, and you're done. And if you want to take a break, take a 4-year break and come back again and try, that's fine. But to simply go forward and with the potential of having no challengers in districts, that to me is very scary. Because you're going to have people that are going to be afraid to challenge, don't have the money to challenge, and you're going to have entrenched incumbents, like I say, for as long as they want to be. So I think we need to take a good, strong look at districts at term limits as soon as we possibly can. I don't know when that is, but otherwise we're going to get stuck with incumbents for life. Thank you.
Jim Grivich, followed by Beverly Boltis.
That's Jim Grivich. I'm here primarily to thank you for amending the budget policy that was presented to you in previous meetings. And I urge you to adopt it as written at this meeting. I also wanted to talk about the importance of the budget policy. It says in there that the city should not spend more than is budgeted. As you know, in the last several years, the city has been spending a lot more than has been budgeted. I think the city council needs to be extremely vigilant on this issue, because if it isn't, we have made no progress. And of course, I will make it my business to present to you any issues that may develop in this area. You may have noticed that when I was talking in previous meetings, that even though the agenda item was the budget, I hardly ever talked about the budget. What I was talking about was actual expenditures, because that has always been the issue. If the city keeps their expenditures within the budget that you adopted last time, I actually think you will be in actually good financial shape this year. But that is if you stay within the expenditure limit. And I hope you do so. Thank you.
Beverly Boltes, followed by Chris Miller.
Hi, Beverly Boltes, and I've lived here a long time, talked to you guys before. I'm here representing West Covina Improvement Association, and I'd like everybody to pick one of these up out here. You're invited to 3 separate district candidate forums for the City Council. District 2 is coming up quickly, September 12th, and District 4, September 26th. District 5, October 10th. They're going to be right here in this room. It's starting at 6:30, and the forum will be at 7 for questions. And we put it on last year, and it was well received, and we thought it was very well done. You can meet the candidates at 6:30 and hear each one address their views and major issues, and be able to ask questions that you will write down on a tab of paper. West Covina Improvement Association feels we have a grip on this. It's difficult to understand the district system, and so each forum is important to everybody here, because whoever you vote is still going to represent the whole city, basically. So please pick up your papers and join us.
Chris Miller, followed by Frederick Sykes.
Chris Miller, Council, Mayor, Chris Freeland, and City staff. On items 9 and 13, we just came out of a budget issue. We still have a budget issue. And I understand that 9 is consolidating a job description, 2 job descriptions, and calling for a raise. But the question is a raise really warranted? We have to control our costs, and if we lay off 21 people and give raises to others, it's not really fair for the city. On the adoption of budget policy and debt management, I really hope we stick to our plan and not deviate, much like Jim talked about. We can't keep this deficit spending. We need to, act a little bit wiser as a city. Items 16 and 17. Quite a few of us, John Shoemaker, myself, Jerry, Carol Molnar, Gary Galino, attended the Go Human event. John and I were there early. According to the report, there was 500 people. It wasn't 500 people for that event. And most of the people there were there prior to the event. They were setting up, they were, riding around. John and I both have video of this. By the time it was over, a lot of people left. When I was canvassing the area and talking to people, most of the people there, while we were giving out flyers, most of the people there were from adjoining cities, going to our farmers market. There were very few West Covinans, and most of them were from the colonies. Many of us have talked about the active transportation funding. It's a waste of money. Why are we going down that road? I mean, we talked about doing some bike lanes. Why are we still pursuing more funds? And then finally, So on 19, I'm against making the clerk and the treasurer appointed. I want it elected to be a voice of us. And then finally on 23, I would like the council to take a position to support Prop 6 and the gas tax repeal. We're getting taxed to death in this state. Many people are leaving the city, leaving the state, and things need to change. Finally, on what Herb was talking about, if we do term limits and no one runs, then what? You're not going to have anybody for council. And you're in one of the districts that there's only 2 people running. Why don't you run? My district isn't up until 2020. So, anyway, I would like more people to get involved in the city. Hopefully, eventually, I'm seeing a little bit more traction, at least social media, people getting involved. And also on YouTube, seeing the council meetings, you see the views going up. But come down to council meeting. Don't be afraid to voice your opinion and make a change in the city. You are the change. Thank you.
We'll go ahead and have Mr. Sykes, and then on deck is Bill Elliott.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, members of the city staff, members of the audience. I am Frederick Sykes, 40-year resident and former mayor of this city. I'm also a retired deputy sheriff, and I'm a commissioner for LA County. I'm on the Human Relations Commission, and I've been a public servant for all of my adult life. The staff situation for our workforce, it was short in 2012 when I was on the council. And now, due to pending layoffs of about 21 maintenance workers, the people who actually do the work and help to keep the city clean, I would offer that we look at our larger parks because they need to be more secure, with stronger signage on the park about when it's closed. And of course, we need increased patrol checks to deter malicious mischief, public drinking, smoking marijuana, and other drug use, and loud and boisterous partying late at night and in the early hours of the morning. And a good example is Shadow Oak Park. That park is 25 acres with an unlocked driveway as the main entrance and numerous unsecured walkways connected to the park for pedestrians to enter the park. And also, the situation has become a big problem for the nearby residents. Some residents who live across the street and near the park have told me about their experience, and they posted that experience on the Nextdoor app. Plus, they are taking their children, and of course their money goes with them, to other cities because of some of the things that they see when they visit Shadow Oak Park. Additionally, all goodwill and related sites should be secured. We need a more aggressive campaign on no illegal dumping and littering campaign also. The homeless capture and reuse most everything that we discard in the street and other public places. When we make it easy for them to stay homeless, they refuse to get assistance and or try to change their lifestyle. When some of these individuals are allowed to loiter around our community, they become criminals by taking without our permission. Such as when we leave our property in our cars, and sometimes we make the mistake of leaving it in clear view while it's in the car, or we fail to lock our cars. I have neighbors that have done this, and they woke up the next day and their computers had somehow grown legs. We also have left our garages unsecured. Garage door opens, and we fail to lock and secure our storage areas as well. Then the homeless, they take these deleterious goods into our green infrastructure, our paseos, our parks, where they make shanty towns.
Please, Mr. Sykes, 10 more seconds.
Oh, my goodness, that was quick, 3 minutes.
5, yeah.
I'm sorry, what was that? Oh, only 5 minutes, huh? Okay, and that's been 5 minutes already, my goodness. Well, anyway, if you live in the southern end of town, you see a lot of shanty towns with all these dairy terriers properties. So what I'm asking everybody to do in the city is do something. We're very short on personnel. We're bankrupt, so it's going to be very difficult to hire new personnel. So what we need you to do is we have a city app that facilitates your ability to report things, help the city out. You see something, say something. Nextdoor app, very useful. And gentlemen, thank you.
Our final speaker tonight, Bill Elliott.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, staff, residents, citizens. Please vote to support the repeal of the gas tax, that money grab by the Democrats. It's bad for West Covina, it's bad for California, it's bad for families. It's theft. Please vote to support the repeal. I just want to say something that's been on my mind a long time. I really think when this last city council came in, it was a mistake to lower the compensation of the city council down to poverty wages. I don't know how you guys even do it. I know for a fact Tony Wu spends more money than he brings in from the city. I know he does. I see him on social media. He's all over the place. And I see the rest of you too. And it's a huge commitment of time. And I just don't think it was right to limit the compensation of the city council. I know some people are surprised I'm saying this, but it's the truth. It limits the amount of people that can run for city council. There's a young mother that's running for city council in District 2, I believe. And my wife and I were having a conversation, how's she going to do that with little kids? I mean, it's restrictive, unfairly. And she should be able to be, if she gets elected, maybe pay for the daycare for her kids while she's busy with city business, because it's very pressing. So I think that was a mistake, that you guys should make more than you're making. I don't even know how much you make, but I know it's low. That should be changed. I wholeheartedly agree with Herb Redholz tonight. He's right on the money. The district elections, absolutely a mistake. When I think about how the vote went and, the deciding vote that forced this district election on all of us, it was unwanted, it was rejected by the taxpayers, the taxpayers and the voters. But, I watched the video tonight. Ironically, a friend of mine from Texas shared it, and it was of a young lady speaking before the Santa Clarita City Council. It was very recent, maybe it was yesterday. And she was thanking them for having the guts, the courage to stand up to these I don't even know what to call them. They call themselves lawyers, lobbyists, attorneys, lawmakers. It's a scam. It's a money grab. And it's also favoring one race over another. That's the intended goal. It's not to get more people to run. It's to have one race monolithic through the city. And where's all the disenfranchised people that are supposed to be running this magical district election was supposed to bring in? We got one guy running that doesn't even have a good command of the English language. I got a lot of groans the last time I repeated his own self-description of being mentally retarded. Apparently he can say that, but I can't. There's a lot of concern about that guy too, because, he works for Sony, and he was, his big claim to fame is being appointed by Jerry Brown to this council, this California council that he's on. I mean, what's so great about him? I mean, what did he do to make Jerry Brown go, get Brian Gutierrez up here? He's unqualified. He has a really slick campaign with pictures of him with Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and all these left-wing radicals that are basically now socialists. They're even out in the open with it. It's really shameful. That's the party of you, Mr. Toma. That's the party of you, Mr. Warshaw, and you, Mr. Mayor. That's your Democratic Party. And, you know, this business of running in the red perpetually forever and just spending money and spending money, man, where's the fiscal responsibility, guys? You know, now we're in this bad situation. The state's going to roll in and you guys aren't going to matter at all. Nothing you say is going to matter. Somebody from the state's going to decide for us. And it's going to begin with a bunch of West Covina police cars being rebranded as Sheriff's Department. And the same with our fire department. I want to leave you with a name tonight, Molly Tibbetts, who was brutally murdered in Iowa. Her body was found, and she was murdered by a confessed, filthy, stinking, rotten, illegal alien from Mexico. I'm so tired of this. Deputy David March, Jamil Shaw, Kate Steinle. What about their right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? That should guide your every decision, City Council.
Thank you. All right, that was our last speaker. That's the last card we have. Is there anybody else tonight that wanted to speak on oral communications? If not, I shall close it. Mr. City Manager, do you have any comments of any of the speakers that were spoken?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, just a few items if I may. The first item is there's discussion, item 9, about the building official and deputy building official. The position is not calling for a raise for the current employee. It's actually compensating the current employee at his compensation. It's just changing and reclassifying the title. So there is no increase in compensation for that position. 2 is there's the Go Human event. That item on there is a budget amendment. City Council originally approved up to $7,000 of matching transportation funds to be utilized. There's a budget amendment to reflect that we're going to be only spending up to $2,500. And so that budget amendment is going to reflect that change. And then there's discussion about the active transportation cycle 4 grant. The grant that we are seeking approval for the budget amendment on that we've actually applied is over $900,000 worth of improvements around our local schools. Better sidewalks, better crosswalks, and actually in-pavement flashing around some of our schools. And the schools being submitted were Merced Elementary, Orangewood Elementary, Edgewood Middle School, California Elementary, and Workman Elementary. So that's the schools that we're looking to hopefully get funded through this ATP grant that's being offered by Caltrans. With that, I believe that responded to the questions regarding the consent calendar. Anything else that was outstanding?
Okay, now we shall move to the consent calendar. We only have one item to be pulled off. That's item number 14, and I'm pulling that one. Then we have, City Clerk, please make a notion that there will be a no on 16 and a no on 17 by Councilman Spence and Mayor Pro Tem Wu. Yes. Correct? You're pulling 17? Or you're fighting on 17? Okay.
I'm going to approve number 17.
You're going to approve 17? Okay. There's just a no on number 16 for both of them. Change the mind. Okay, now we're going to pull number 14. City Manager, who's going to present this, please?
Actually, do I hear 14 and 17 were being pulled, or just 14?
17 people.
Oh, you're going to pull 17?
I'll pull 17.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right, 14 to 17. Okay, before we do that, we don't make a...
I move that we approve the consent agenda with those amendments.
Do we have a motion second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and second. We have roll call, please.
Spence.
Aye.
Toma.
Aye.
Warshaw.
Aye.
Wu.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye, passes 5-0. Okay, please, number 14, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I can have the police chief. Oh, actually, take it back. We have Commander Doug Murray who's going to do that. Captain, excuse me. Old title.
Close enough for government work. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, council members, members of the audience, and city staff, good evening. In front of you is item number 14, and if you'll indulge me for just a second, I would like to, more so for the benefit of the audience watching at home and the audience in the live studio here today, kind of talk about what the civil grand jury does and what its function is in terms of the state constitution's requirements. So under the state constitution, each county in the state of California is required to impanel a civil grand jury. When most people hear the term grand jury, they think of the criminal grand jury, which is set up to deliver indictments on cases that are political in nature, are sensitive to a specific county, or the DA's office can't reach a consensus. They'll impanel a criminal grand jury that they can bring an indictment and bring forth a prosecution. The civil grand jury has an entirely different function. The function of the civil grand jury is they take a group of community members, they impanel them for a 12-month period of their life, and their sole job is to investigate topics concerning the operations of government. In previous years, they've looked at issues involving our county jails, public works departments within cities. In this particular year's function, they did 8 investigative reports on departmental matters within government, everything ranging from the underuse of golf parks or golf courses in county facilities to homelessness, to committee reports on information technology, really anything they decide they want to look into and make recommendations on. They will go out to the agencies that are involved. They visited our agency now for the second year. If you all remember last year they did an inquiry on towing practices in cities and throughout LA County. We made a response to that report as well. So this year the topic was law enforcement citizen complaint procedures throughout the county and how those things differed throughout. Good evening, Mr. Duro. How are you? Essentially, there's government codes and penal codes that direct the way that these matters are conducted, but the civil grand jury's exploration in this case covered 12 different cities within LA County, everything from large agencies where you're talking Pasadena and Glendale sized departments of 200 or more officers down to smaller departments such as ours. And West Covina was in fact one of the cities that was looked at. As part of the requirements under the California Constitution and the Penal Code, at the conclusion of the release of the civil grand jury's reports, they'll make recommendations to things that they think make good business sense for the cities to look at and consider adopting. The findings are advisory. The city has no obligation to adopt them, but if they make good business sense, it's often a good idea to do so, and we did in this case. The civil grand jury in this case made some recommendations. They're attached to the addendum item on item number 14. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the actual process that goes on in West Covina in case folks are curious about what happens. Our police department is a full-service police department. If a member of the public makes a complaint, whether it's in person, over the phone, on old U.S. mail, email, if they want to contact one of our people with a blank letter that has no name or information on it, coming from other agencies, third-party complaints, or whatever, we accept them. Our preferred method of dealing with it is to have the member of the public who's got a concern with the way that things go on interact with the watch commander initially, or at least a field supervisor, so that they can get an understanding of what is and what isn't. A great many instances occur with these types of complaints where there are misunderstandings of the application of law rather than actual misconduct incidents. An example of one that we frequently field from members of the public is, hey, I was driving through the city of La Puente and I was pulled over by a West Covina police car. I don't think they can do that. I want to file a complaint. Well, the fact of the matter is, police officers in California have jurisdiction throughout the entire state, and if they see something occur in West Covina and the person drives into the city of La Puente, it doesn't preclude the officer from making a stop. They can and should continue to do the enforcement action or advisement as necessary, but we frequently get that from people because of misunderstandings of jurisdiction. I have personally accepted complaints or spoken to complainants who are in custody in our jail who said, hey, I was arrested for this warrant, but the officer didn't read me my rights. Well, under state law and under the United States Supreme Court, the officers don't have to read a person their rights unless they're going to interrogate them and try and elicit incriminating information. If the person is in custody for a warrant, we're not going to ask them anything. They're just simply being returned to the judge that issued the warrant. So many times these are just misunderstandings of procedure, and we don't want to have a person receive substandard performance from our department or substandard delivery of service from our department because we let something trail on for months and months and months rather than just giving them an explanation right at the time that they're not happy with what happened. So our preference is obviously to have the most interaction with the person that we can. Now, with that said, we do hire human beings from the human race who have human flaws. And occasionally, and Mr. Sykes can attest to this being a 33-year law enforcement officer, our people sometimes fall short. And I have fallen short many times myself because we're all human. And when we do have those things that happen, we want to get the best view of what actually occurred, and we want to be able to ask those probing questions of the person who is bringing the information to us so that we have everything that we need to make a proper determination on what happens. From that point, it is routed to an administrative lieutenant who will assign it out to a couple of investigators to look into it. They'll determine what happened, come up with a finding. It's reviewed by 3 levels of management, ultimately by the chief of police, and then a letter is sent to the person who filed the complaint with the outcome. And the outcome is driven by state law. We can give 1 of 4 responses, but we cannot disclose personnel record information as of this moment. So the civil grand jury made some recommendations. A lot of it had to do with the transparency of the process. One of the areas that we only achieved a 90, in the low 90% range on, which I think was about the lowest point that we received in the entire audit, was the response to complainants. And actually, the penal code section that the civil grand jury cited in this case was actually misinterpreted by the civil grand jury themselves. It said that the departments were not getting back to people within 30 days as to the resolution of the complaint. But what the code actually explains is that once a determination has been made, and we have a year to complete any investigation that we do, within the point of that determination, we have 30 days to notify the parties involved. So it's very easy to have these mistake of fact incidents occur, and even the grand jury had one so in their own case. So that's kind of the gist of how things work today in West Covina. And if there are specific questions I can answer about the report, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to.
Any questions from the council? Not seeing any. Thank you, Captain.
Thank you, sir.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry. Did you have one? Okay, I'm sorry. Council, no, go ahead. That's what you're open for.
The question on the city's response on, and first of all, I agree with you about the internet thing. You know, I do think, I mean, I had a concern. I mean, it'd be nice that you could, you know, anybody can calculate from anywhere, but the problem is we don't have the resources to investigate every complaint, you know, wherever they come from, and I could see us being bogged down at some point if someone just systematically, you know, wanted to do file complaints against people. But the question I had about the city's response, and this is the one for 1.1 about police departments including the warnings, and I think our warning was unique because it said you might have to take a lie detector test, right?
It was a very old form that existed.
Yeah. And somehow it got passed on. You know, but I actually don't have a problem with it stating that, making a false claim, is against the law and citing that particular code section. I don't have a problem with that because I do think that sometimes people aren't aware, or they want to say they're not aware that making a false complaint is actually a violation of the law. So I really don't have a problem if that's included in it. I think the lie detector test doesn't make any sense, but here it says that we agree with the finding and we're not going to have that.
As to the removal of the language regarding the polygraph, we do intend to remove that out.
Okay.
If Mr. Mayor, if I could just address the issue. Mr. Spence is right. The language that the police department intends to use is actually part of the statute, that state statute. The difficulty is that there is actually a federal case which reversed a conviction of someone for filing a false complaint on the theory that nobody gets prosecuted for filing a false, nice thing, a false commendation or a false, so it's strange, as it may be. So on the one hand, you've got a federal case that says that you can't really prosecute someone. On the other hand, you've got a state statute that you're supposed to actually put that warning on for people. And so there's actually a policy that it will go on, but if someone refuses to sign it, then we're not going to force them to sign it. So I hope that add some
guess I'm confused,
information.
so I guess I'm a little confused. So there'd be a place, I mean, if someone's turning in a complaint, they sign it normally, right? But-
Yes,
Okay.
and the notice is on there, so.
Oh, the notice is on there saying that the penalty is, okay, I see, gotcha.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't have a problem with that. The polygraph, it's a little, old-fashioned, waterboarding, whatever you wanted to do. But nice.
Councilman Tillman.
Thank you. Thanks for that presentation. I actually thought the grand jury report was interesting. They have the resources to go and do the survey of, I don't know if they do all 88 cities. I can't remember if they do. I think sometimes they do a good number of them, but most cities don't have the staff persons to actually go out and see what all these other cities are doing. So it's often educational because not too many entities have the ability to get that kind of information and see how we compare to other cities in terms of what they're doing for practices. So I appreciate the issues, and I know that the department agreed with many of the findings and made recommendations that were common sense to implement those things. But there were, I think, at least 3 that I checked that it didn't agree with them, and I wanted to explore those more. The first 2 are on the first page. One about the clear signs indicating the location of complaint forms in multiple languages. I don't know where all the different locations are for the complaint forms in the police department. Obviously, there's locations, but I don't understand why we can't do if there's a sign that says complaints. It's one word. There's simply to put it in Spanish at the very least. I think Chinese and Tagalog are also languages that are used in West Covina quite a bit. Why we can't have signage just indicating here's where the complaint forms are, and then. The other one down at the bottom is complaint forms on the website. Again, similar situation about languages in the community for the police department. And then may as well just go through the third one. On the next page, developing the ability for complaints to be made online. I have had a lot of experience with receiving complaints because just with my own job, and I understand that police departments have limited resources. You really can't thoroughly investigate every complaint, but you get pretty good at kind of figuring out what kind of complaints have more meat to them and what have more substance. They tend to provide more detail. They're not anonymous, although you look at anonymous complaints, and you can kind of tell by the nature of them whether there's something there. Not always, but you can get a pretty good sense for like whether this is a valid complaint, person signs it, the position the complainant has in terms of how they would know this information, etc. So I do think that in some cases people might be afraid to go into a police department. They're intimidated. They may not have a lot of experience with the police department, and there may be a very good reason why they want to make it through online. They might be seniors, they might be disabled, there might be any number of reasons why they can't get to the police department to actually make the complaint. I realize that the much better complaint is someone who does it in person, because you have that person, you can judge all kinds of things from the complainant, the language they use, how they behave, etc. So I understand by saying that complainants are encouraged to come in person, because I think that's a better way and a more practical way to get your complaint acted upon. But I do think that there are times and situations where someone who may have a very valid complaint just can't do it, or for whatever reason is afraid to do it, and I think that we shouldn't let that stop them from making a complaint. Many agencies, including my own, allow online complaints through websites. They are taken, the fact that it is taken through the internet may be a factor in terms of how the police department reviews that complaint, and so forth. But I don't see a reason in this day and age of digital transmissions, the fact that we already take complaints by letter, by telephone, I think, and other means, what difference does it make whether we do it by computer? You can't get any more information from a letter than you could from a computer, other than it's easier to do it probably digitally. So those are the 3 questions that I have. I think those recommendations from the civil grand jury actually do make sense. They're not terribly expensive, and they're a step towards greater accountability and reaching out to the public to make sure that our police department does take these things very seriously.
Okay, if I could just kind of go through those one at a time. The issue concerning the lobby is the design of the police lobby is it's very small. It's essentially covered with glass on 2 of the longer sides of the very narrow rectangular shape of the structure. Attaching signs to the windows that separate the public via the bulletproof glass to the interior of the station. Affixing things to that detracts from the ability to see outside of the station, and it kind of adds a little bit of blight to the facility itself. What we intended to do by producing the forms in multiple languages that most accurately reflect our demographic in the city is to have a holder that has each of the forms in the different language prominently displayed by itself, that it's nothing except complaint forms in the languages that represent the members of the public. And at the very top of the form, it's going to say citizen complaint, police department complaint, whatever it is we're going to title it that would make sense for that member of the community, whether they're an English-speaking citizen or a non-English-speaking citizen, that they don't have to talk to anybody, they can just walk one, pick it up, and walk out with it. Rather than putting up signs in, 24 by 12 inch size or whatever that's going to take away from the visibility of the lobby. We felt that that was a fair compromise that probably addressed the underlying intent of what the civil grand jury intended, that the lobby be inviting to people who want to come in and see if the complaint form is available without talking to anybody, and just grab it right off the counter. And if you walk into our lobby right now, the complaint forms are sitting right in the front of a pamphlet holder on the countertop of the lobby, and that's the only thing out there, so that's not really hard to find them. Going to the issue of the online, and I think that may have been 2 points wrapped up into one, if I'm understanding your question correctly. There's some pretty visceral stuff that goes out over the internet and concerning people who otherwise might be a little bit reluctant to come out and say some of the things that they say, don't seem to have a problem saying it on blogs and other places that are completely anonymous and free from any questioning of the source of the information. On our website, we do have the email addresses for all 4 service area lieutenants who serve as the watch commanders in the department. They can address that 24/7, and at least we have the opportunity to ask questions back of the person, even if it's over email, to try and get additional information to vet and validate the complexity of the complaint, whether it's relevant, whether it's something that's terribly serious that we need to get on right now. Because, honestly, the last thing that we want to have is somebody working in one of our patrol cars out in the public that doesn't belong in this occupation. To invite them completely anonymously is something agencies have made a decision on, that they think that's a good business practice for them. For us, we look at it as a service delivery failure, because we're not giving the best information back to the person who's bringing it forward to the department. But I do certainly appreciate your perspective, sir.
So just to understand what you just said, we do have complaint forms in other languages then already?
They're being produced right now.
And what languages are they in?
So far, Spanish, Mandarin, Tagalog, and we identified 2 others that I have somebody working on right now. But getting them effectively translated both in the correct version of what we want the form to say, based on what it looks like right now, into the languages that the city clerk has identified as the most prominent.
And then when the complaint forms that are sitting in the lobby, they're just sitting in a pile, there's nothing that says complaints on it, it's just forms sitting there?
It says it on the face of the form itself. It's a trifold pamphlet that sits in a pamphlet holder, and the heading of the form says complaint procedure.
Well, I guess I can appreciate what you just said, but it doesn't have to be a big sign. If it's sitting in a batch, it can just be like a little thing that stands up that it says complaints, and then in 2 other languages. How do you say complaint in Spanish? I don't even know how you say it, but one word, in Spanish, etc. So I don't think it's, we're asking for a huge amount. So I'll make that point. And if we already are developing the complaints in other languages, why not make them available, online to make them submissible online? So if there's another comment, I would make a motion to make the complaint forms, to make the complaint forms available online, 2, make them available on the website in the languages that the city is already doing them in, and 3, make the signs showing the location of the complaint forms in those same languages.
I have a question on that. One is making the form online. Is that also submitting it back online, or is that just being able to print it out?
I think the recommendation of the civil grand jury was to make them for the ability to submit the complaint online. Is that correct?
what you're looking at is exactly the verbiage that was taken from the report, so it could mean that, although it would generally be an unfunded mandate if that's what we're in fact doing, because we would have to incur some development and programming costs to get these things done.
Then I will amend that to include to be made available online for printing, and then to ask to go back to see what the costs are to actually make it submissible online.
So question, are you going to amend it basically for the police department to bring back?
No, so the motion would be the same, except based on Captain Murray's comments because there might be a cost in making them to be submittable online, to just put the PDF online to make it printable online, which, should cost nothing. But then to ask them to go back to tell us what the cost of it to make them submittable online.
Well, I have a question about the issue of the submittable online, because I'm not sure, I mean, if they're going to pay the cost, it's just the cost of someone submitting it, but the cost of someone submitting it online is, it has to be investigated. I mean, that's the real cost that we're talking about. It's not the programming cost, it's the cost of, if somebody just wanted to, file 12, 13 complaints and, just start going through our officer roster, it would require us to go through and do all kinds of investigation. That's the real cost. That's the cost I'm not sure we're big enough at this point to absorb. I mean, that'd be my concern about it. I mean, so the software stuff, I think that's probably pretty easy. I think the real issue is how do we deal with the complaints? And I guess I had the other question too on the languages. Do we have officers that speak all those different languages? Since the two are unidentified, which two extra ones we're using? How are those investigated? I mean, do we have to hire someone from outside if we have a speaker? I mean, I think those costs can end up being astronomical for, and so I guess that's where I have the question about the submittable part.
I think that if somebody reports a credible complaint of a crime, it is something that is going to be looked at and will have to be looked at. But if there is, I'm sure there's anonymous stuff that is junk complaints of the kind that is being referred to. That's bound to happen in a city of 108,000 people, where somebody who's just angry or doesn't understand the law or whatever submits something that are going to be responded to.
It doesn't have to be somebody, even in the United States. It could be someone sitting at a computer, in Russia.
Understood. And if they don't produce an address or location for where their contact information, there's really nothing that's going to be done for something like that.
See, that's where I have a problem.
Yeah.
See, that's where I have a problem, because I think you're setting up the police department. I mean, we had this problem a little bit in the school district where suddenly there were anonymous complaints about stuff. The problem is if you start saying, well, that's not a credible complaint, you start having problems. I mean, you have to do some basic stuff for everything in order just to cover yourself, because you can't say, oh, well, that wasn't a credible complaint. How do you make that judgment? You say, investigate credible complaints. What's a credible complaint? What is it?
The city department must already have a standard of procedures to judge what is a credible complaint. They get things by letter, they get things by telephone call, so they already have a standard and a process to
right, and we can
determine
overwhelm
complaints.
them, and then have a process that that's all they're doing.
I think I agree with, Councilman Thomas, we want to encourage people to complain if they have a mistreatment. But at the same time, I think the problem is we don't want the abuser, they just complain for nothing and they just shoot it into the internet. And then we must have manpower to do it. So I think maybe we just PDF, we can just download it and then we file a formal complaint, and submit to the police department. Then we have certain personnel to look into this is credible complaint or not. Rather than possible the computers, everybody sit on computer can just submit something, and create potential issue. I think maybe a formal complaint, with different language, I agree. Maybe in that way we can, maybe encourage people if they have mistreatment or something.
So I can break that out if there's going to be disagreement about the full thing. I can break it out to make it just the downloadable, printable complaint, just as a source of agreement that maybe we can agree on to do it that way. So I'll just start it with that, with whatever the languages are that we are developing in the complaint to make those printable on the online, to make them printable on the police department website. That will be my motion.
How about, you also mentioned about where all the complaints are, having, a little sign behind it that says complaints and all the other.
I'm just going to separate the motions out, to make it simple. So I will go into those also, but just to make it easier, because I'm not sure if we're all going to agree on all these different things. So I thought I would just do that, if that's okay, just to do the downloadable PDF.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Spence.
Aye.
Toma.
Aye.
Warshaw.
Aye.
Wu.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye. It's passing 5-0. Next.
All right, so then I'm moving to the sign issue about the recommendation to make the signs indicating the location of the complaint forms in multiple languages. Again, those same languages. I'm not going to specify a particular size of the sign, but it does say to make them clear to do them in the languages indicating this is where the complaint forms are. That's my second motion.
Now I'll second that motion. Okay, we have a motion.
Hold on.
Any other discussion? Go ahead.
I mean, I want to know what kind of font we're going to use. What kind of font are we going to use? I mean, if we're going to start mandating signs, I want to know, how big a space are we taking? How big a space are we taking? I mean, are we going to take because to be honest, I'm more concerned about the fact that, the state legislature, made everything under $950 a misdemeanor, and I'd prefer to inform people about that if I have limited space. I'm wondering what else is up there and what size you want it to be and that kind of stuff. I mean, I just like to. I mean, the lobby is small, so I just want to know what we're going to put in the whole lobby. If we're going to do it, design the lobby, we should probably take a little break and we should go up to the lobby now and see what's up there and see what the signs are and go from there. Because I mean, we are right.
And if we already have online, we have all this, different language, I think this should be sufficient enough, for people to go to privacy, go into PDF, download it, and file a formal complaint, rather than go to the police department. They can go to the counter and say, hey, can I have a phone or something? But do we really need that sign with different language in our lobby? I don't know, is that sufficient enough for people really show up? If people really show up, want to complain, they can do the computer to download, or they can go to the counter and say, I want to file a complaint. Do you have some kind of complaint form? That is what my thinking. I don't know you agree or not. I know you try to be more people can go to the police department and more easier for people to complain based on the grand jury thing. But I don't know how the lobby is sufficient to put something for us. So maybe we really have to check about, the location, we can put some kind of sign or something.
On that language stuff, if I can ask, Mayor, and that is, do we have stuff that people can file complaints for crimes that are committed against them in all those other languages? That if someone's car's been broken into, if someone's, that kind of stuff?
No.
See, I think actually this grand jury, in a way, while they're focusing all on trying to figure out, talking about cops, I think a bigger problem is we probably have people that need to report crimes that are being committed in their neighborhoods so that cops could do something about it. So, I mean, if I have to choose between, what kind of signage I have up there, I'd prefer to have signage so that victims of crime can get redress for what's gone on in their neighborhood if they want to file a complaint. And so, if we're going to do that signage stuff, I would prefer that we do something like that so we can make sure that crimes are being reported so that our cops can do something about it rather than this is the civil grand jury is just focusing just on complaining about cops. But I think we have a bigger problem complaining about people in neighborhoods that are doing bad things. And so, I mean, if we're talking about space or what we're doing, I'd prefer that to be a focus.
It's not mutually exclusive. We can make a motion to do that.
I didn't say it was, but we're in the context of what we're talking about. I would want to make sure that we were doing that as part of our outreach, rather than just focusing on complaining about cops.
My understanding right now, they're in a folder that just says complaints. To me, the signage is you just put a sticker or something on that folder and list the different languages it's in so people will know, oh, it's these languages. That's all you need.
Okay, we had a motion and a second. We have a roll call, please.
I'd like to amend it, though, that we then put up signage for reporting crimes, reporting criminals. No, I asked to do an amendment.
You want to amend
Because we're going to focus it. We can do it that way. I mean, if you're against it, I guess. Okay. I mean, I think, we're asking the question wrong. We're focusing on the civil grand jury stuff, and we're instead of focusing on how we can better serve the public, we're just trying to accommodate the grand jury.
Yeah, but your second signage, I understand what you're trying to say, and I do agree with on something like that. But were you going to have that sign right combined with the other one that says also complaints against neighborhoods, or what? Well, you don't have to have separate forms for them? I mean, there's not a form there for them.
Well, I mean, if we're going to go through all this micromanaging of the lobby of the police department, I want to micromanage it to make sure we focus on, keeping our neighborhoods crime-free. That's what if we're going to do that micromanaging, that's what I'm going to focus on.
Well, we can bring that one back. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's have a roll call, please.
Spence? Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye, passes 4-1. Now, we have to do a staff report, bring it back, because we don't have, that's not on the agenda. We can bring it back.
I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt. Unless you can relate it to the grand jury report, then that would include an amendment to the proposed response.
Second?
Would you repeat your motion again?
Ways for people to actually complain about crimes in their neighborhoods. That's part of our response. That's, we're just not going to focus in the lobby on that. We're going to focus on crimes being committed in neighborhoods.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please. Okay, restate it one more time, please. Councilman
Part of our
Thomas
response would be that
doesn't
we're also going to include the ability, the signage, and the information on how people can file complaints about crimes in their neighborhoods.
With a different language stuff.
Sure.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's have a roll call, please.
Spence?
Aye.
Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye, passes 5-0. Next item is number 17, was pulled off by Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Mayor, go ahead. I would say the rest of the document, if you can.
Is there something else?
Well, the rest of the document needs to be adopted.
Specific additions.
So what we'll do is we're going to adopt now the overall response to the grand jury. Staff will make the amendments that have been requested by the city council this evening. Yes.
Okay, we need a roll call on that then. Motion and a second.
I move to authorize the city manager I move to authorize the city manager to respond to the presiding judge of the Superior Court concerning the recommendations made and as amended by the city council.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Spence?
Aye.
Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye, this passes 5-0. Now we go to item number 17, which was pulled by Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, the reason I pull out this, okay, because city manager just mentioned, okay, this is for improvement for all the schools surrounding, for the road, okay, for the walkway, for the sidewalk. I'm 100% support that, but the reason last time I disapproved this, okay, agenda, because this is active transportation, meaning, okay, you didn't mention about, are you going to pay, okay, the bike road, bike lane surrounding this school, meaning active transportation, meaning people riding the bike to the school. So I want to understand if this is a catch. The catch is they're going to give us a grant to improve the sidewalk, this and that, but at the same time, they are going to pay, okay, under this bike lane around the elementary school, the middle school, okay, and the problem I have, just I mentioned, during the busy rush hours, I don't know how safe for the children to ride a bike to the school, okay, and if any kid get hurt or something. I don't want this on my conscience. So that's why last time, okay, I disapproved, okay, this thing. I want to make sure we don't have a potential issue due to, okay, and they want us to put a bike lane around the school, and I don't know how safe they will be. So maybe city manager can clarify for this issue.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, member of City Council. So the active transportation plan does include bike lanes remaining by the school zones at this time. That was approved by the City Council majority. Whether this application itself includes bike lanes, it does in those areas, in those zones as well.
So basically, for us to get this grant to improve the sidewalk, okay, and the walkway, we have to pay, okay, the bike lane. That if we are going to pay, okay,
No, the grant will pay for those as well.
I understand, but meaning, I don't care who pay for it, okay, but my point is, so are we going to have the bike lane around the elementary school or middle school? So I have a major issue for that. I mentioned last time already, the reason I don't feel safe for the children, okay, to keep them this land and then thinking about this is safe to ride a bike. And I don't know, okay, how any parent will allow their children to ride a bike to the school during the rush hour. You can see there's like a, okay, traffic jam, okay, and everybody try to, okay, drop their kid. Okay, and how safe for kids to ride a bike, and it's almost impossible, and it will waste the money. At the same time, it's a false sense of security or safety. Okay, for some maybe out of mind kid want to ride this thing and get hurt. So that's the reason I want to clarify. So meaning we have to pay, we have to make the bike lane for us to improve the walkway and this and that. Am I right? So it's a catch.
Correct. That is part of the Safe Route to Schools program that the state runs, and so this is part of that grant as well.
So in that way, I can now approve this. Okay.
Anyone else?
Well, I do have a question, just real quick. Edgewood Elementary Schools, it talks about, and California Middle School, I mean, are those errors?
No, I mentioned those, didn't I?
California's middle school?
I said California Elementary. Oh, does it say middle in the report?
Is Edgewood's an elementary school?
No, I'm reading the actual grant application.
Okay, well, the actual grant application is not reflected in this.
Okay, as I stated, it is Merced Elementary, Orangewood Elementary, Edgewood Middle, and California Elementary, and Workman Elementary.
And so, so what does the grants, I mean, since the grant is not included in here, what does it all include when it talks about safe routes to school?
All right, I'll have Monica, if you can come forward and help me out.
Because if I remember right, when we did the active transportation plan, that was one of the things where they actually said, you know, about busing, it talked about busing. And so.
This has nothing to do with busing.
I know that, but I mean, that meant the consultant did not understand what was going on at the schools at the time. Anyways.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, and staff. So to answer your question, Mr. Wood, the only bike lanes that are around the elementary schools are on Merced, along Merced, for the Merced Elementary School in Merced, between Azusa and Lark Ellen, and on Lark Ellen between Cameron and Merced. So it's bound.
Azusa and Lark Ellen, but
Yes.
this is pretty,
And then, but you're.
it's pretty heavy traffic, right?
It's high school.
It's for the Merced. It's part of the, as mentioned, it's part of the Safe Routes to School, and it's part of the
Because
ATP plan.
As I remember last time we were talking about Azusa, it's so heavy traffic.
Yeah, this is not in Azusa.
Not Azusa?
No,
Okay, so.
right. And your question
Well, it was
was.
Lark Ellen Cameron,
sorry.
right, you said?
Lark Ellen.
Lark Ellen Merced?
Merced, yes.
Okay, and does Merced Elementary have a bike rack? Do they have bike racks for kids?
I would have to check again, but they might. And additionally, we obtain support from both school districts to do these improvements. So the improvements include high visibility crosswalks, count-up pedestrian crossing signals, advanced stop bars, bulb outs, sidewalk infills. So obviously, this will be taken to council if we get the grant, or when we get the grant, because we will. There's two opportunities to obtain this grant, and at that time, when we do the design, we'll get into the details and work more with the school.
But
And
absolutely, we have to.
and we will bring it back to
But
council for
meaning, well,
approval.
absolutely, we need to put a bike lane around the elementary school, right? Based on what you say, this is the only thing I'm concerned. I really want the grant too, to fix all those good things, but I'm more worried about we are going to put a bike lane because it's a catch.
I mean, that's something we can maybe discuss once we obtain the grant. But
Well, how do we, maybe I'm confused on how we get a grant for stuff that, either we submit a plan or we don't submit a plan. I mean,
well,
how can we get grants that without stuff attached to it?
Yeah, this is not a detailed plan. I mean, these are this scope of work is what we are recommending. But if for whatever reason that changes, that can be implemented during the design of the plans and construction.
If awarded the grant, we are intending to move forward with the bike lanes unless directed otherwise by the council.
Okay, so I'm hearing two different things.
No, the grant application says that we are moving forward with bike lanes as in the approved ATP.
Yeah, and we don't even know if the schools have places for them to lock up bikes.
We can follow up with the schools on that.
Yeah.
They do.
Yes,
That doesn't
they
mean
do.
they didn't thought about that. Because I remember I took the last ones out in Westco so we could put portables in there because no one was using them. So I don't know, let's put some back, there.
I'm gonna say I do recall that Merced had them, but I can get back to you on that.
Yeah, I think everybody support the improvement for the walkway, the sidewalk, for the kid to be safe, okay? But I'm talking about again is the school support the bike lane or we have the choice later on, say, okay, we don't put the bike lane over here because too much traffic, so we don't want somebody get hurt, okay? That's my concern. Again, is make sure we don't want to, put the lane over there and then, and we just want the kid to ride a bike to the school. It won't happen.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move to approve the budget amendment for the active transportation cycle for grant.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. So any more discussion? Roll call.
Spence? Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Nope.
Johnson?
Aye. Passes 3-2. That's be the end of the consent calendar. Now we will go to regular departmental matters, would be number 19. And it's for the rebuttal argument regarding the ballot measures on changing the office of the city treasurer and the office of the city clerk from elected positions to have them appointed by the city manager. Mr. City Manager, who's doing it?
City Attorney will give the report.
Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
So this evening, if the majority of the council will be signing a rebuttal argument, then they should approve that, unless only 2 of you will be signing it, and other 3, or the others who did approve the original argument, will be delegating to someone else the right to sign the rebuttal. So you may either approve the rebuttal argument, or you may act to delegate.
Is there any questions or any?
Microphone.
Definitely sign it, I mean.
Well, the mayor will sign it.
Yeah, so you're signing it? So then we need 5 minutes so you can put up the arguments in.
I need you to email them to me.
Right now? Okay. But it's still going to take you time to do that.
Yes, I guess so. So, want to take a small recess?
Or we can do other stuff while we're doing that.
Okay, if you want to email it to me, we'll try and load it at the same time we can hear number 20. What's that?
Okay, we shall move to, are we going to get back on number 19 then? We're going to move on to item number 20 then. We'll come back to 19. This one it's the mayor's selection ordinance update. Who's going to?
I'll give a brief report. A couple of months ago, Councilman Spence brought to my attention that the mayor selection ordinance, or the rotation of the mayor, may have had some issues with regards to a mayor stepping down midterm. So I brought that to the attention of both Mayor Pro Tem. They asked me to reach out to the city attorney to have her interpretation, and does create a little bit of an issue with what the intent of the city council direction had been previously, which was that the intent was to have Mr. Johnson serve as mayor for a term of about 18 months through his normal term, which would expire next November, so November 2019, and Mr. Wu's term as mayor pro tem at that same time. Under the discussion of the current ordinance, it could be interpreted that both those terms would expire after the conclusion of the election this year. And so staff brought back an ordinance that's been drafted by the city attorney to try and resolve that issue and go back to the intent of what the council had made the motion and the direction a couple of months back.
What motion was that? I never saw that in the minutes. Can you tell me where that was in the minutes? That was the intention of the council when they did that? When was that discussed? Because I looked at the tape and I didn't see a discussion of it.
Yeah, no, I don't believe there necessarily was. I think the assumption was that there was not an intent to change the original, and that was, I think, confirmed in the conversation with the mayor and the mayor pro tem.
So this was an assumption then that then should have come as a mother, may I, to
No, the statement was made by me, is that if I could only serve for 6 months, I wouldn't accept as mayor at the time. So the council, Councilman Spence, you had already left.
I know, but I looked at the tape and there was no assumption made there.
At the time, we discussed it, and the discussion between the 4 council members was that I would presume the mayormanship for the end of this year, and I would presume my regular rotation in 2019, and Mayor Pro Tem Wu would step in and be Mayor Pro Tem for the rest of this, and he would also assume the Mayor Pro Tem for 2019. This was a consensus of the 4 council members while you were gone.
Well, that was never discussed, but there's a bigger problem with this ordinance being presented here tonight, and that is the fact that it still maintains the language about the order based on vote totals of people that are elected. And so when you look at, as was pointed out, there's 2 districts where there's only 2 people running each of them, and there's one where there's 5. And obviously, the vote total for whoever is that person will probably be much lower than ones for the 2. And because of the way this ordinance is situated, that to me is a bigger problem. And if we're going to say we're not going to organize in November, that doesn't make any sense either. But I think there's several problems with this that need to be discussed if we're going to do it. And we should have done it much earlier. And actually, this council rejected doing it much earlier when I brought up the vote totals things. So let's wait for the new council. And so, but now expediency, people want to do stuff so they can maintain whatever. But, that's a bigger problem because District 2 is going to be discriminated against based on the vote totals because they had the nerve to have 5 people run. And so, we have to come up with a different system than this here.
I believe that we can come up with a different system later, before the election, as far as the vote totals. That has nothing to do with tonight. This here is what it is. Before we go any further, I want to read something from one of our residents. This has to be concerned about with Councilman Spence, or it was. He was addressed to city manager, mayor, and councilman. I just read over the agenda for tomorrow night and stopped on item 20. There's a recommendation, rotation on how to respond in the future when council is subject to a situation like what happened to our city at it faced in May 2018 for Spence and in 2016. I don't believe the amendment went far enough to include the immediate firing of city councilmen in 2016 or the drug testing of councilmen both occasions, so that this city does not have to face the same situation in the future. I am aware that the changes were not filed against him in 2018, but charges did apply in 2016. I would urge you to go back and edit this item and insert drug testing upon taking the position. This goes on and on. We can't go back and do drug testing, and we can't fire a council member. The council members are elected by the residents. So this just goes back to say the residents are weighed in on it. This resident had no problem with the rotation where we did it right now. So if I don't hear anything else from any other comments from the...
I passed the drug test in May. That wasn't a problem. You want a discussion about that, we'll do it. But I'm also saying there's other problems with this ordinance, and we should deal with it in totality rather than just piecemeal it.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, if the entire council is before, the entire ordinance is before the council, you're not just changing, you don't have to just change that one provision. If you would like to change the highest number of votes and simply and come up with an alternative way, do them in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it might be. obviously, there's only 3 up in this next election, and so you would say whatever you're going to say about those 3. But
No, you have to
it
start
is
rotation.
an option for you to make additional changes to the draft ordinance.
Yes, okay, I think we ought to discuss that among the council right now, how we would like to change that for this election. We can add that into it at this time. Do I have any suggestions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, because it would only have to be done once if we do it by district. This first election has 3 districts. That's 2, 4, and 5. So I think it should go in that order. And then in the next election, with the other 2 districts, it would go 1 and then 3.
I think, okay, 5 of us, we get elected as at large, so this rotation has to be finished in 2020. So meaning, okay, that we have to, okay, get this 5 equally with a rotation. So after that, then we go to the, okay, 5, 4, 3, or 5 this and that. Then, so, but just like last time, somebody already say, we need to go to at large for 5, okay, and go through the rotation first, okay, because I'm still, okay, on the at large, okay, even I'm running for the district number 5, but I'm still at large of, okay, elected, okay, 2.5 years ago. So anyway, and that's my request. So we still have to go through this rotation. After that, then we go through, okay, which one maybe, okay, 5, 4, 5, okay, 4, 2, or 2, 4. So, but okay, how we can do it is, okay, maybe, I think maybe we should do this with okay, people get elected after November, and we can discuss peacefully, okay, and for them to decide, okay, what they want to take, who is the next one. I think much fairly, okay, for the newcomer, okay, maybe some of them still here, okay, and they can decide what we to do. Rather than now, we have a kind of land dog of a city council to decide our future city council, their fate, okay. So I will propose, okay, go through the rotation of what we have before, and then after November, they'll have a new council to decide what they want to take peacefully and reasonably and okay, and gentlemanly, okay, or okay, to ladily, okay, to do this together. So anyway, this is my proposal.
You're not saying this November, you're saying well, but then then that would change it. My motion would be to make it 2, 4, 5, 1, 3, and for it not to take effect until after the 2020 election.
That would preserve the current rotation order, I think is his point. So
I understand,
Yeah, okay.
but I don't know, okay, and that will be acceptable for the future district elected person, okay? So I was thinking about we should let the newly elected decide, okay, what they want to take rotation. Let them to have a chance to talk about this rather than we decide for them. I understand, appreciate we go through the 2020, but still, I still prefer we should wait for the newcomer after this November for the new elected, okay, official to decide what they want to do.
Yeah, I think any way we do it, it's random, so I'm fine with letting it go until the November elections also. But just while have the mic, I do want to say that on C sections, oh, actually, did you just make a?
I did, but it wasn't seconded.
Okay, all right. All right, okay. All right, I'll hold my comment because it's a different section.
Is there any more comments on this one? Okay, so I want to make a motion.
Well, there's
But I thought I started.
No, I made a motion and he seconded it to make it 2, 4, 5, 1, 3.
Okay, let's have a roll call.
Spence? Toma?
No.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
No.
Johnson?
No, fails 3-2. And Councilman Toma.
So just this is a technical issue, but on the section C, it says the council shall conduct its annual reorganization during its second regularly scheduled meeting of November, except in even-numbered years, when the reorganization will occur at the time the city council confirms the official canvass. So that should be changed now, right? Because we're always in even-numbered years, so there's not really an exception. I mean, it would still work, I guess, but it
right,
seems...
except you rotate every year. So in odd years where there's no election, you would rotate.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, I'm correct. Thank
Okay.
you.
Could I ask for one more clarification? If you'll note in the proposed language in new subsection E, there's some bracketed language, whether you wanted me to just strike that bracketed language and put the period after vacancy, or if you wanted to qualify it by some amount of time. I mean, if a vacancy occurred in the first month, say, or just an option. Okay. So you're suggesting that I just strike the? Yes. Okay. So then we would need a motion on the ordinance with that strikeout.
Okay.
So moved.
So we have a motion, we have a second? I'll second. Okay, we have
If
a
I-
first.
May I
I'm
read
sorry.
the title?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of West Covina, California, amending Section 2-21 of Article 2 of Chapter 2 of the West Covina Municipal Code related to the mayor selection process.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Have a roll call, please.
Hold on just a second. I'm going to vote against this specifically because we have not dealt with the district issue. This is a good example of how districts are being pitted against each other, but District 2 is going to be discriminated against based on this language, and to wait until after the election to deal with it is a mistake because people will already have their own little things figured out to do it. It's a mistake to do it that way.
Anyway, let's have a roll call, please.
Spence? No. Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye, passes 4-1. Are we ready for number 19 yet?
We are not.
Okay, let's go to number 21 then. Okay, number 21 is initiate a Proposition 218 hearing process for proposed adjustment to residential and commercial solid waste rates due to the state mandate organic waste recycling law. City Manager, who will give that report?
I'll give a brief report if I could. Mr. Mayor, Member City Council, thank you. This evening, we have requests from staff to move forward with the initiate Proposition 218 hearing regarding the adjustment of residential and commercial solid waste rates due to state mandated organic waste recycling laws. Specifically, in 2014, Governor Jerry Brown signed into law AB 1826, which is a commercial organics program into law, which requires businesses to recycle their organic waste. Typically, that's food waste at our local restaurants and whatnot. On or after April 1st, 2016, depending on the amount of waste they generate per week. The program originally required all businesses that generate 8 cubic yards of organic waste to have an organic recycling program in place. And those businesses that do require that or have that much waste already have that program in place. As of January 1st, 2019, all businesses that generate 4 cubic yards of organic waste will need to have an organic recycling program in place. And furthermore, under AB 1826, if CalRecycle determines that the state of California has not diverted at least 50% of all organic waste generated in the state, both residential and commercial, then the program will be expanded for all businesses that generate 2 cubic yards of organic waste. All right, so that talks about the need for an organics program for commercial businesses. Also in 2014, Jerry Brown signed into law AB 1594, which eliminates the use of green waste as alternative daily cover for landfills. What that means is today, when folks put their green waste at the curbside, all that green waste is taken to the landfill, ground up, and then you put on top of the waste for the day. That's what is considered alternative daily cover. Before, that was dirt that was doing that purpose, but with the amount of green waste that is going has been recycled, that's been utilized. The state is now saying that as of January 1st, 2020, cities will no longer be allowed to send their green waste to landfills as well. So what that means is now all the green waste collected in the city at the residence, as well as businesses, needs to find a new home. And so Athens Services is providing for its clients the ability to take all this green waste now and organic waste to a facility out in Victorville. I think it's called American Organics. And at that program, they actually will turn all of the waste into compost and other materials. And so because of the new state law, the new program being required of our businesses and of the residents, a couple things are happening. First and foremost, rate increase that is being effective October 1st, 2018 is a 9.17% increase in rates for commercial, as well as on effective July 1st, 2019, an additional 9.1% increase in rates as well. Just as a reminder, every July 1st, Athens gets a CPI increase. Effective January 1st, 2020, when the residential organics recycling program goes into place, residents will see a 7.93% increase in rates. So not only are we required to divert this waste, but we're also being required to monitor the progress and maintain it as part of our diversion of waste from our local landfills. As everybody recalls, at this point, we have to mandate at least 50% of all of our waste is diverted from landfills. The state is looking to increase that to 75%. So this diversion of organic waste and green waste will help us hopefully get to that 75% should the state make that transition. Athens is going to be required under the program to provide not only the composting facility and the taking of the materials to Victorville, they will provide free 32-gallon barrels to commercial customers, and they get multiple ones depending on the amount of organic waste they recycle. Sanitizing of organic waste, that is for additional charge, because as you can imagine, you don't want barrels sitting there with organic waste building up that's been sitting there for several months. No change in service for residential customers. Athens will take on all responsibility for separating that waste and sending it out to Victorville. Athens is to provide necessary staffing to manage the organic recycling program here locally, which includes all reach out and information to businesses and residents. Part of the organics for the commercial program is that we actually have to have interaction with each of the businesses that generate that organic waste. So Athens is taking on that responsibility as part of this as well. So they'll be responsible for meeting and making sure that they monitor and comply. Each of the businesses are being monitored and they comply with the new state law. And in addition, they'll be required to file the annual reports to the state of California on our behalf. At the same time, City Council asked us to go back to Athens and try to address two separate issues that have been part of the ongoing discussions with our franchise agreement with Athens. One of those provisions is known as the Most Favored Nations Clause. What that says is, and this was done back in 1999, is that the parties recognize, I'll read it verbatim, the parties recognize that this agreement to send city waste stream to the MRF, which is a material resource facility, is one of several contractor has with other cities, and that such agreements may differ from this one. Should any such agreement with other cities contain or be amended to contain more favorable provisions for that of another city, this agreement shall be deemed modified to include such favorable terms. In the past, the city has argued that this section of the agreement should keep City of West Covina waste rates equal to that of other Athens services communities. Athens agrees. However, if those services are alike, all right, Athens contends that there are various services, contract language, and unique city conditions, et cetera, that make this provision not applicable necessarily here in West Covina on all cases. In exchange for the removal of that, the City Council asked staff to go back and get rid of what's called the clawback. All right, for those of you who are around in 2004, the City Council back then changed the rate structure from multifamily residential units to the commercial rate structure. So that means like apartment complexes were being charged the same rate as local businesses, thus saving residential units thousands of dollars a year for waste collection. The amendment also put into place a clawback provision which would allow Athens to recover past fees or lost revenue, as they would contend, from multifamily residential units that received that reduction all the way back to 2004, should the evergreen clause of the agreement with Athens be terminated. So in April 2003, the agreement actually says that the fee reduction was stated at $6,011.75 per month. In today's dollar, the clawback is valued that should the City of West Covina ever initiate the termination of the evergreen, that means approximately $1.4 million in today's dollars would be something that Athens would contend they can go back and charge our residential multifamily units. So the city council has asked staff to bring back an agreement with the Prop 218 program. This is the city has agreed that they will remove the most favored nation clause as long as Athens agrees to remove the clawback clause. And tonight, we're presenting to the council that Athens has agreed to do so, as long as council agrees to remove the most favored nation clause in the agreement. So that's a simple but detailed report of what's going to happen with a couple different issues. With that, staff will provide answering questions, and we do have representatives from Athens here to answer any additional questions as well.
Any questions from the council?
They can tell you a lot more about the organics program if you want
Okay,
that detail.
yeah, I do. Gary, would you please come forward?
We have Gary and Christian both from Athens here tonight.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Gary Clifford, Executive Vice President of Athens Services, and Christian Warner, Vice President of Athens Services. Go ahead.
Well, what we want to know is what are the benefits of doing this? Tell us.
Okay.
I mean,
I think your city manager did a fantastic job presenting this dilemma that our governor and assembly and senate have come up with to help California increase its diversion and remove organic waste from the landfills. And in this particular case where West Covina is going to have an advantage is that the entire commercial arena is going to be able to participate, whereas if 75% of the commercial arena had to do that and they had to purchase an organics barrel for $150, they probably wouldn't have an incentive to do this. That price has been lowered a lot by the overall increase, so now the barrel will be given to them at no charge, with the exception of whatever that increase is, the 18% over 2 years. That's the actual charge of the program in the whole city, which also includes 6 recycling coordinators that interact with the 700 or so commercial customers entering. There's a form they have to enter. We put in our system. Cal Recycle looks at that, and it guarantees the state that the city of West Covina is going to be compliant with Assembly Bill 1826. And that is where the city, instead of having to take on that burden and fund that arena with employees, we're going to take that on for our cities. In addition to that, with the green waste, that's your largest recyclable item in this city. The number one recyclable item is the green waste that is taken. West Covina is a green community. There's lots of lawns and trees, and they end up using it as cover. That's going to change from going to our MRF to San Bernardino to our MRF up in Victorville, and it's going to be turned into mulch in 120 days into compost. It's going to come back to the community as a beneficial reuse. We've had other cities adopt this same program. It's working very well in those communities, and in fact, they've embraced it, and the community all feels like they're doing it together instead of doing it kind of in a source-separated standpoint. Had the laws not changed, we wouldn't have to do this, but this isn't a windfall profit for Athens. This is a program that we have to put in place, and we're collecting the cost of that program. We'll make a small profit on that, and then send it up its way to the state. So this is strictly because of the assembly bills. It's nothing that's happening locally. Is there anything else you want to add, Christian?
Is there any more questions?
Gary, this will guarantee that we continue to meet our recyclable standards that the state is set currently at 50%, and if it goes up.
Yes, it will, sir. I think not only will it guarantee it, it's a program that's endorsed by Cal Recycle, and I think it'll insure it in addition to that. And so if in other cities that don't adopt a program like this, the business doesn't want to do the program, there's no recourse. In this particular case, we're giving the people incentive to do it. And in addition, remember this, why I think this is important for the community is that even though the waste rates are going up over 2 years, as they get their organic barrels, they can lower their trash frequency. And I'll give you a quick example, and it's just an example. If someone has a 3-yard bin that is picked up every day of the week, and 100% of that is waste and recycling right now, there's going to be a portion of that that is organics. So they're going to ask for 1 or 2 organic barrels, and they're going to get those at no cost, and just for the sanitation fee, whatever that is, $4.50. So once that happens, obviously they're not going to need waste 5 days a week. So they're going to be able to take, it's my argument, and I think it's proven out scientifically, that they're going to be able to take that 5 day a week waste behavior and maybe reduce it to 4. And the money they'll save on that should exceed potentially the increase over 2 years for the organic program. Does everybody understand that example? So there's also a benefit for people that don't have to do it. In other words, if I had a business that had a little bit of organics, I would have Athens come out, I would visit with a recycling coordinator, and I would see if I could get a I would want to get one, because I think my argument would be whatever's in that organic barrel is not in my trash bin, which means I could reduce it.
Mr. Mayor, I failed to include that in some of the other cities nearby. We've seen, according to Athens, and they didn't want to disclose who, we're seeing rate increases anywhere between 10 and around 25% in those cities. And then in some cities, they've done a blended rate, which could be argued residents are subsidizing businesses. So I want to make sure that residents understand here that that's not the case here. There's actually, based on the proposed fee structure, it is residents are paying the resident fee for just the green waste, and the commercial users are paying for just the organic waste that they generate.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, this agenda basically tonight just want us to approve, okay, the hearing process, right? So basically we're not going to do anything regarding the rate structure. Basically we just, based on the state require us to have organic waste, okay, the restructure possible, okay, they are going to, the fee we have to pay. So this is a hearing, we have approved to have a hearing so the resident can ask about all the questions. Am I right? So this is just to approve the process of the hearing.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
But it's recommended to do the hearing, but then also to authorize the city attorney to draft the 11th Amendment with the deal points outlined in the staff report. So it's not just we would authorize the hearing, but also the deal points for the new rates. Right. Okay. What's that? That will be voted on at the hearing, but it's to initiate the plan. Okay.
Do we have the rate plan yet, or they're going to propose?
Yes. Yeah, the rates are attached.
They're going to attach, okay, with what we discussed before. So this is going to include in our future hearing about rate increase. Am I right?
Correct, and it'll be actually mailed to all households and customers of Athens. In the city of West Covina, yeah. Yeah, not other cities.
So this organic waste, okay, is required by the state.
The recycling organic waste is a requirement of the state, yes.
So we have
at different levels.
We have to separate the kitchen waste and the green waste and the typical trash.
Not only not only is it going to be separated, we have to pick it up separately. So the truck that picks up the other stuff cannot pick that up. Not only is it going to be separated by the customer, it's going to be separated at our MRF by people that don't, and then we will have a separate route, a separate truck, a green waste truck, come into the city and pick up those organic barrels, different than the other trucks that are here.
So no matter what, we have to comply with this law by the state imposed to us to separate for the green, the issue of the landfill to last longer. So, okay, and how can we know the fee that imposed to our resident is fair?
We went over it diligently and submitted those fees and showed the costs, and they were all certified and verified. And they're also, Christian might want to address this, but you can also compare it to some of what the other cities, even non-Athens cities, have done.
If I can, I just want to make one point of clarification. This separation of organics is only for the commercial and multifamily accounts. It's not for the residents. So at your homes, you don't have to do anything different. You do not have to separate organic and food waste with your green waste. If you're a resident of West Covina, everything stays the same. But in January of 2020, we will take that material to a different facility so that it's composted and then returned back to the city for those free compost giveaways. So the organic law only pertains to the commercial and multifamily accounts where they have to separate it out from their trash, not the residents, not for the single-family homes.
So are we talking a proposed fee now, or we talk about?
That is part of the Prop 218 hearing, so it included are the rate increases, which will be sent out to all the households. So it's a Prop 218 protest hearing. So the notice goes out to all the residents and customers of Athens and West Covina. They have the opportunity of either mailing those forms back into the city protesting or appearing at the hearing.
So my understanding, and the residential increase or implement not going to till 2019 or 2020, right? So commercial.
2020, yes.
2020, right? The commercial would be 2019, right?
Yes, but the notice that your city requires is a 5-year notice, so they're just going out for the next 5 years, noticing the customers as to what's happening. That's what this hearing does now.
So the rate increase for our resident, if that is become an issue for us to decide, so their increase won't be happen till 2020?
That's correct.
For the residential?
Correct.
For the commercial, there will be 2019?
Correct.
Next year.
Well, half of it will be in October of this year, and then the other half will be July of next year. So we've agreed to spread that increase in cost over 2 years, just to phase it in and make it a little bit easier for the commercial ratepayers. Yeah. But we are starting that organics program immediately.
So how many percentage, I know I have here, but maybe residents want to know, how much, for the commercial of this year, October, how much will be next year, and in 2020, how much will be all residential, the increase will be?
It'll be on that form that's mailed out to the residential and commercial customers. Yeah, okay. It's on that form.
So the commercial increase is roughly 18.33%. So 9.17% will take place on October 1st of this year, and then the remaining 9.17 will be in July of 19. That's for the commercial and multifamily.
So basically, every month, they will increase 9%?
No, it'll only happen
so this
October, and then again in July of next year.
So 9% increase, and then next year, another 9% increase for all commercial.
And then that's it. So what we're doing is we're trying to take care of it all up front at once, and then for the life of our contract that we have with the city.
So after that will be CPI?
It'll just be CPI. And then any customer can call us up and say, I want 2 organics containers, and there's no more charges because we'll take care of it all up front.
So you won't come back to us a couple of years, say, hey, we need another increase again?
Not for the organics program that we're talking about. Correct.
Okay. And
there's another law that this.
And how about the residential? How about the residential in 2020? How much increase?
That'll be a 7.93% increase in January of 2020.
One time?
One time, because that's when that law takes effect, is January of 2020.
So that's your proposal to mail to the resident?
Yeah, and it's letting them know that won't happen until 2020 for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes, Ms. Smith.
Yeah, I was confused last time, the Prop 218 hearing aspect of it, because this is not a property tax bill that's sent out to our residents for the services they receive. And so I was curious what other non-property tax billing cities use the Prop 218 hearing process for this.
For property-related fees and charges?
Well, this is services, it's not a property tax bill.
No, it's property-related fees, it's not a tax. It's property-related fees, and Proposition 218 requires...
And so did Monrovia use a 218 hearing?
I can't speak to that, but as you remember, we actually consulted with the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association on this issue the last time.
And all the other cities don't do Prop 218 hearing? Because I have a question, because if this is a mandate from the state, this organics program, how can we in truth have a Prop 218 protest hearing? In theory, if it was to be rejected, what do we do? This is a mandate from the state to do this, to come up with this, and I don't see how, having this process, it's not really fair, because if it got rejected, what would we do with this mandate from the state? And so I just don't understand how that would work. Silence. I have one other question, I guess, since I'm not going to get an answer on that. There's different rates charged for organics in different cities. It's my understanding here in West Covina, we decided not to pass on or to blend the commercial rates with the residential rates. Is that right? So
Yes.
the people are paying for whatever their rate is.
Yes.
And so that's why if they look at other cities and see that the rate might be different, it's because they're subsidizing the commercial rates. Is that correct?
Yep, absolutely.
I have a question. What is the consequence if we don't comply?
If Proposition 218 is not complied with, then the rate increases
The
can
organics.
be invalidated. Not the implementation of the program, it's the rate increase here that is the issue. Because it has to be approved by the council under the terms of the agreement.
So the consequence will be?
Would be that the increase would be invalidated.
Kind of clarification, are you, if we don't do the rates or the Prop 218 hearing? The rates, we will be fined by
rates.
Cal Recycle for violating their 50% diversion. Yeah, and I'm not sure what the fines are per day. It's like $10,000 a day to the city.
$10,000 a day, fine. So if we don't do this, we don't impose to all this so-called organic waste, are we going to be $10,000 a day?
Yes.
Let's go ahead with that.
Any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen. We have to vote on this, right? We need a motion to initiate the Proposition 218 hearing.
So moved.
Do you have a second? I'll second it. We have a motion, okay.
I'll just speak on this. I understand the need for the some increase because of, as the gentleman said, the state mandated law with the organic. So we have to do something, and so some rate increase is bound to happen. I'm just not supportive of this because I think because of the most favored nation clause, because I think of our history, we ought to make sure that we are getting the lowest rate. And also, I would rather just do a clean rate increase just for the organics program. I don't think we need to do these other provisions. You know, the most favored nation clause acknowledges that agreements differ. And so I don't think there's any argument that the agreements have to be exactly the same in order for us to get the benefit of the most favored nations clause. It says that it understands that that the agreements with the cities may differ from this one. So just in that provision, it says we understand that agreements differ. They're not all identical, but this one's in the rate section. And so I think we should be able to benefit from that and get the best rate. So I don't approve of the exchange. I think any increase through the clawback, or I forget what that other clause is, would have to go through a Prop 218 process anyway. So I don't think it's a good deal, and so that's why I'm going to vote for against it. But I do understand that we have to implement something for the organics program.
Okay, and I know this is a hearing and they propose this rate increase. Do we still have a chance with this hearing? Do we still negotiate the rate when to implement or this and that, or this set that we have to 9% and 7% of 2020? Okay, or the hearing still can, okay, kind of find out that maybe something more reasonable that can be more affordable. I don't know. Okay, this is the hearing. When you say hearing, okay, meaning supposedly we still can discuss. If this hearing just like this is the way you guys to vote for yes or no, okay? So I want to understand, okay, do we still have a chance to talk about this rate increase on the percentage?
Yeah, if I may, the public hearing occurs before you act to approve the rates. So people will have an opportunity to protest. The rates that you impose cannot be higher than those that were included in the notice. This is the rate that Athens has proposed in exchange for, including the program, in exchange for the new provisions in the agreement. They would have to speak to whether they can do the program with the lower rates, but that properly is the subject of the actual public hearing.
As I remember the discussion we have at that time, I say, okay, I have a problem with this rate, so see we can kind of negotiate, okay, a little bit, okay, kind of a little bit more affordable, less impact, okay. But not, if we go to this hearing, and now this is set. When this is set, then maybe it's just yes or no, okay. So I might have an issue with the rate, okay, imposed, okay, in such a, and I understand with organic waste, okay, and the state imposed to us, and we really need to let them to do something something, well, I don't know this rate is really, okay, the fairness, okay, and for our resident, including all those commercial, okay, to pay, because commercial pay higher rate, they will charge on their tenant, and okay, so everything will increase. So that is the thing I worry, okay, but at the same time, I understand they need to do something, we need to do something, but I just don't understand, I need to know, okay, this way, can they still have a chance to be adjusted? Maybe you can answer.
That question, I mean, they can answer that, but tonight is not about establishing the rate. Tonight is about initiating the process. So it's not until the public hearing and the protest process that you actually approve a rate.
I understand, but the rate has been set. Okay,
No, the rate has been proposed.
It's a proposed rate, so we can still have a hearing, so maybe we can discuss with Athens to try to find something, okay, the common ground.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I want you to remember this is a program. This isn't a rate. So I know that you're concerned about a rate. It's the maximum rate that could be imposed, and there's flexibility with that rate. We presented many different proposals to the city over the last 2 years, and in this particular program, an 18% increase over 2 years in the commercial world is what is going to take to fund the program. But remember that the individual customer has the opportunity to lower their singular rate. So it's not just a rate, it's a program where an individual goes out to the customer. They visit the customer, they assess their cubic yard of waste. They determine how much is organic and how much is recyclable and how much is other things. And then they set the program in place. So the maximum that program could cost is 18% more than it currently can cost. However, if they can reduce their trash, it could go down more than that. So it's not just about a particular rate. And when we went through this, there's a council member that I won't identify that certainly has an education and a background in going through numbers significantly. And I know that they will tell you that those numbers were validated numbers. So I just want you to keep in mind that it is a program, it's not just a rate. And my argument is that a high-end organic user is now going to have the ability to receive several barrels and lower their trash rate working with one of our recycling coordinators, and I think that's a good thing. So I know that when you're talking about a program and you're talking about an increase, that sometimes is an issue, as I had when I was making the same decisions that you are. But why I feel good about this program is because it is a program. And the program allows people to have flexibility in their own rate. And then we audit it to make sure somebody's not saying, hey, Athens, give me 10 recycling barrels, and those recycling barrels are full of trash, not organics, just to pretend lower their rate. And there's parts of the program that will be in the contract that will talk about if people do that, what the consequences of doing that are. But Mayor Pro Tem, it's my argument to you, and I've been here for a long time now, that this is going to be a significant benefit to the city in taking its diversion from 50% and higher and having a program that complies with CalRecycle. And tonight, your vote is to set the maximum rates for the program.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have the urgency that we have to do this hearing? Okay, because the rate implement, okay, won't be till 2019 and the residential 2020. So I think we still have a chance, okay, to a little bit more research and discuss, okay, and then find a way then we can, okay, bring to the resident and have a hearing, rather than, okay, right now we have to make this decision, okay, and with the rate, it sounds like it's like forced to us to have to decide right away. So because I want to know how urgency we have to do this right now, okay? Okay, because it sounds like they won't implement till 2019. Right now we have to discussion with the Athens, okay? So to find a way let both sides can be okay happy and satisfy something that we can be proud to bring to our resident. Okay, this is my request.
Okay, so we have been working with the council for the last few months to put this program together. The intent of this program is to move it forward because the organics program, Athens has already been doing it in place now for the larger generators of organic waste. On January 1st of 2019, which is only a few months away, what will happen is this program needs to be in place for much more businesses. So this program does need to get in place as soon as possible. Because it will take time to, not only get Athens to do what they need to do, but on our end to make sure that they're compliant with that as well.
Again, my argument is this won't be till 2019. Why now we can spend a little bit more?
January of 2019.
Yeah,
That's 4 months from now.
It's January 2019, we have to implement to the, it's not July of 2019?
Right.
Because my understanding is July 2019 to implement to the commercial.
No. If I may, it is January 1st of 2019 is when Assembly Bill 1826 will go from Tier 2 to Tier 3. And when it goes to Tier 3 on January 1st, it's going to encapture all commercial generators, businesses who generate 4 cubic yards of waste or more a week, which is probably going to be at least half of the commercial base that is in West Covina. The fact that it starts January 1st, we have to get ready for that. We have to order trucks and barrels and give us lead time to get everything in place. We're preparing brochures and flyers that we mail out. We're training our recycling coordinators. We need that time, which is why we've been, our effort to work with the city for the last few months so that we can gear up to January 1st. We're also meeting with Cal Recycle in many of our cities. They are looking to the cities and to us to make sure that these programs are moving forward. So we're doing everything that we can to keep them satisfied that these programs are moving forward. I cannot speak for Cal Recycle, but if these programs are not in place by January 1, Cal Recycle will start coming back to the cities and doing whatever they need to do. That's why we want to get this in place right now.
So what you're saying is, if we don't do this, okay, and January 1st, we don't have you guys to help us with organic waste, then we're going to get fined $10,000 a day? I don't think so.
They have the ability to fine a city.
I think they will give us a warning first, right?
They will, but they have the ability to fine any city.
We have time to react and they will, have you guys to find something.
Right.
Okay, what I'm saying is this, okay, why not just decided with this thing, we maybe can have some time to kind of till 2019 or 2020 to decide this organic waste, of this, increase our program.
Because you'll be out of compliance if you wait too long. If you wait past January 1st, the city will be out of compliance. And I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just going to quote the law. The liability is actually on the city, and the city reaches out to the hauler to help the city comply. And that's what we're trying to do. But it really comes down, Cal Recycle will lean on the city to say, hey, you got to get your program in place. So all I can say is that the city would probably be found to be out of compliance, and I don't know exactly what they will or won't do at that time. They have into other cities give them compliance orders, which force them to get in compliance, and then it's a whole series of meetings and fines, possible fines that you have to go through. They take your city to the board, and I've seen it done in some other cities. It's not a fun process to go through to get back into compliance.
Christian, let me add one thing too. And to close that statement out, sir, our proposed contract amendments provide you indemnity from that. And, I don't make up the clock. I wanted to do this a year ago. AB 1826 started a year ago. So we've been kind of doing it on our own. But we do have to make some contract amendments because as of January, we should be indemnifying you for this now. And if something were to occur, there could be some argument as to whether you have indemnity for Assembly Bill 1826. And I think the prudent method would be to approve the process and let it move forward. And as the process moves forward, before the final hearing, when the Prop 218 process is over, because that's the process this city chooses to use, then we meld those things together. But I think that the legislative decisions you guys make are important. This legislative decision, which your attorney will tell you, includes Athens indemnifying this city from those assembly bills, which I think is significant. I just wanted to close that out with that.
Mr. Mayor. We've been working on this for months. They proposed this to us probably 9 months ago already. And we've heard this. This is the maximum rate. It doesn't take effect right away, and there's still some time for negotiation. But it's time that we continue to move forward. And with that, I'll move to direct staff to initiate the Prop 218 hearing process and to authorize city attorney to draft an 11th amendment to Athens Service Agreement.
I'll second the motion. Okay, we have a first and a second. We have any more conversation?
I mean, Mr. Warshaw is right, because, some of the stuff that we've talked about here, we've talked about for the last 2 years in closed session. And, I don't like the fact we've gone down through since a lot of cities don't use the Prop 218 method for doing this, I don't like it. I don't like it because it doesn't make sense for something that's mandated by the state for the organics program. I'm concerned that, I understand Mr. Wu's part about negotiations, but I think the worst time to negotiate with somebody is when you have to have it tomorrow. I think that's the worst time. I don't know if anyone's ever had experience dealing with emergencies, but emergencies are very expensive. Athens does do the organics program. The indemnification is huge for us as a city. So we have to at least take a look at it and talk about it. So I'm going to, I do like the fact that we didn't, blend the rates, because I think that makes it less transparent. If we start blending rates, supporting commercial and that kind of stuff, it's harder to figure out what people are paying and what they're paying for. And so I do think, we made the right decision in that and not going down that road. And so I'm going to think we got to go through that process and see where we're at before January 1st, because I don't want to negotiate with anybody on January 1st trying to get organics program in place. So I'm going to vote for this, even though I don't like a lot of the other stuff that I already mentioned.
Okay.
Not a lot of good choices.
Okay, let's have roll call, please.
Spence?
Aye.
Toma?
No.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
No.
Johnson?
Aye, passes 3-2. Okay, are we ready for number 19 now?
We're having technical difficulties, but we have hard copies we present to the council, and I'll be more than happy to read it. No, because I sent you a message back saying it didn't work. On the Measure T? Okay, no, the other one I did not, so okay, you're right, Measure V, I don't have that as a word. Okay, so this is not the right Measure T? Okay, so I'll read the one that you emailed to me. Mr. Mayor, council ready? All right.
That's the same one.
He said there was a small fix.
Okay.
So,
By the way, one of the requirements for doing the rebuttal is you need to address the arguments that were submitted, and they were different, even though they're by the same people, they were different.
all right, vote yes on Measure T. The opponents of Measure T tried to point an illusionary, trumped-up version of what happens if, what's that? Trumped-up vision, excuse me. What happens if the authority of the elected city treasurer is put in the hands of professionals? What the opponents misleadingly failed to inform you of is that this actually took place decades ago. As finance became more complicated, the state already transferred authority to qualified professionals. The treasurer is a treasurer in name only. That is one reason almost 75% of California cities no longer have elected treasurers. The spurious charge that this measure will cost taxpayer money or lose a voice is a sham. The elected treasurer has no right to any more information than you do. Do the math. 0, the number of times the elected treasurer commented on this last year's budget. 0, the number of embarrassing items revealed by the elected treasurer. 0, the number of times taxpayers were protected by the treasurer. $13,000, the cost of having to investigate complaints against the treasurer. Tens of thousands of dollars, the cost of treasurer elections. Unlimited, the amount of potential liability for possible claims against the city. Voting for Measure T saves taxpayers money. Voting for Measure T ends the biggest fraud of them all, a politician with a fancy title and no responsibility. A big 0. Vote yes on Measure T.
Okay, is there any questions on it?
Just grammatical on that second paragraph, the opponents misleadingly failed to inform you of is that fact, is that this actually took place. So you probably want to correct that, I think, and make it better somehow, but.
He corrected on the version I read, but yeah, the one you haven't, it does have the there is a strike through. It says, what the opponents misleadingly failed to inform you of is that this actually took place decades ago.
And then on the, did you mean to say this last year's budget? I guess that makes sense, but is that what you meant to say, this last year's budget?
Yes, that was my intent. Any comments on Measure T? Is there a motion that needs to be done, or?
You can do them together if
Okay.
you want to read the second one.
Do them both at the same time?
Sure. So here is Measure V regarding the city clerk position. The opponents of Measure V make a phony argument that taxpayers will lose if they approve this measure. What the opponents failed to disclose that the responsibilities that were prescribed to the city clerk were delegated to professional staff decades ago. Go to the West Covina City YouTube channel and watch a council meeting. Every meeting features the deputy city clerk accomplishing the task of elected city clerk. That should be assistant city clerk. That is why almost 75% of California cities no longer elect their clerks. There is no increase in city costs as pretended by the opponents. The fact is, taxpayers save money by no longer having to spend tens of thousands of dollars electing a politician that no longer has responsibilities. This current city clerk supports Measure V. Electing someone to a position that no longer carries out the responsibility is a fraud. Measure V recognizes the current status of the position and saves taxpayers money. Save money and enter the modern era. Vote yes on Measure V.
Is there any questions? If not,
I don't know if this was corrected in the version that you're reading, but the second paragraph, the responsibilities, mine says the prescribed. Was it fixed?
It should be prescribed. I don't think it was. It should be the responsibilities prescribed to the city clerk.
Mine says the prescribed to the city clerk.
Responsibilities prescribed to, yeah, we got it.
I'll make that change. Prescribed. And just for clarification, the current city clerk, is that a current elected city clerk? Or?
What are you fixing? Which one? Then on the third paragraph, it says save money by no longer have to spend tens of thousands of dollars. It should be having to, and it should be tens of thousands of dollars.
Having to spend.
is there any more? Anybody?
All right, so these will be the text, and then Mr. Spence getting the signatures to go along with it.
We should have a motion in a second.
Yep. Mr. Mayor, motion and a second to receive both.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
And I'll second to approve. Do we have roll call?
Spence? Tomo?
Abstain.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Nope.
Johnson?
Aye, passes 3-1-1. Oh, yeah. And now we're going to, was it 22 or is it 21? Yeah, item number 22. Who shall read the staff report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are going to have Captain Richard Bell provide you a report.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break first.
No. No.
Okay, we're back from recess at 9:28. City Manager, who's going to give the report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll have Captain Bell provide your report.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members, commissioners, staff members in attendance, as well as our viewing audience. My name is Richard Bell. I'm a captain here with the City of West Covina Police Department, and I will be discussing a proposal to amend and extend the city's towing service area contracts. And I'll start with a little background here. Currently, Royal Coaches Auto Body and Tow is the sole towing provider or sole towing vendor for the City of West Covina. The city is divided into two areas. Service area number 1 consists of patrol beats 1, 2, and 3, and that covers the northern portion of our city. Service area number 2 consists of patrol beats 4, 5, and 6, and that is the southern portion of our city. Maps are attached to your staff reports. If you look at that, you can see the different areas. The tow provider is responsible for all police calls for service, to include calls for service from the fire department and the maintenance yard. Service calls from private citizens for undesignated towing services are referred to the appropriate geographical area. Service Area 1 was sent to bid through an RFP process in 2009. Royal Coaches was awarded the contract, and the terms consisted of the following. There was a one-time $100,000 upfront franchise fee paid to the city. The city also received 30% of the gross revenues. The city received an additional 1.5% of the gross revenues in the form of a bonus for community events. And the term of this contract was listed for 5 years. However, in 2012, an amendment to the contract extended the services out to the year 2022, which can be extended for additional 5 years upon mutual agreement between the city and the tow vendor. Service Area 2 was sent to bid through the RFP process also in 2009 and received an extension in 2012 under Bob's Towing Services. On July 7, 2016, the city terminated its towing service contract with Bob's Towing, and Royal Coaches assumed responsibility of services to ensure uninterrupted towing services for the city of West Covina. Service Area 2 was sent to bid through the RFP process in 2017, and Royal Coaches was awarded the contract, making them the sole tow provider for the city of West Covina. The terms of this contract consist of the following. The city receives 30% of the gross revenues. The city receives an additional 5% of the gross revenues paid to the city as a bonus for community events. The terms of this contract is listed for 3 years. The contract for Area 2 is due to expire in 2020, and upon expiration, the contract can be extended for an additional 2 years upon mutual agreement between the city and the tow vendor. Royal Coaches has reached out to the city to realign existing contracts to be consistent in each service area. The new proposed terms include the following. The city will continue to receive 30% of the gross revenues for both Service Area 1 and 2. The city would receive a 5% of gross revenues in the form of bonus donations for community events for both Service Area 1 and 2. And the contract will be extended to a term of 7 years, starting from 2018 and ending in 2025 for both Service Area 1 and 2. Overall, Royal Coaches has provided service to the city since 2006, maybe even beyond that. During the tenure, they have provided outstanding service to the city of West Covina. Over and above that, they have provided vehicles to events such as the Every 15-Minute program, and whenever there's a auto accident in the city that's of a major accident, they also have provided lights and other services for us. So they have gone over and above the call of duty. If approved by the City Council, the City Attorney will draft contract amendments to the towing service contracts with Royal Coaches detailing the exact terms. The City Council has the following options. Grant Royal Coaches contract extension request and authorize the City Attorney to prepare the necessary contract amendments for the City Manager to execute. deny road coaches contract extension request, or provide alternative direction. The fiscal impact of this, amending these towing service contracts will bring the city additional revenue specifically for community events. In fiscal year 2017-18, the city received $10,153 from road coaches as a donation for community events from Service Area 1 at 1.5%. At the new rate, at 5%, that amount would increase to $33,843. It is estimated that this increase will bring in over $165,000 in new revenue for community events through October of 2025. Amending these contracts would also streamline future competitive bids, bidding process, improving the efficiency of staff work. Mr. Salazar is present in the audience, should you have any questions for him. And that will conclude my presentations. Are there any questions?
Mayor Pro Tem.
So, currently, entire West Covina City is performed by you, right? Serviced by your company?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right now we request the contract for that's up is a District 1 and 2.
The contract is not up.
To 2018.
In one of them, it's up in 2022, and the other one is up in 2020.
So, so you request another 7 years to 2025?
Well,
which one is that?
From this year to 2025 consists of 7 years.
So which districts will be?
Both districts would be.
District 1 and 2, right?
Yes.
So District 1 and 2 want to up to 2025, all the same at the same time. Okay, and you highly recommended their performance is pretty good.
They have outstanding.
So there we have no complaint on the south side and the north side.
No complaints.
Okay, so everything's pretty good.
Yes.
Okay, so when you say 5% community event, so where's the 5% community event? Which community event we have? Because right now we know the city cut off all the community event. So with you to willing to give us 5%, that would be very nice. So what event will be sponsored by this company?
So the funds that go into the Community Services Foundation, which members of the City Council, except Mr. Toma, serve on that board with, I think, Mr. Kaufman, to actually make those decisions each year. And so you'll have before you in September, October, the appropriation of those funds for different events throughout the year.
So roughly how much that 5%, yearly, right? So how much there will be? Okay, and how much we have in the community event fund in our community service, foundation, right?
It is. I can't tell you how much is in there at this time because it's not on the agenda.
You don't have because since we have a 5% from them, and we should have a number about how much we have from this company and how many events we can utilize. Okay, because right now due to budget issue we have no event, so this would be perfect utilize their sponsorship or donation and to do any potential event that have been cut by the majority of the council. So do you know any idea how much is that 5%?
Yeah, in the calculations of what gross revenue was for 2017-18, it would increase the amount for Area 1 anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 for the year.
So community event, you sponsor almost $50,000 a year?
Combined with Area 2 and Area 1, with the increase to make Area 1 equal with Area 2, raising it from 1.5% to 5%, it should be increased at least $20,000 to $30,000, which combined would be approximately $50,000 for the year.
Okay, very nice. Okay, hopefully next time we will talk about how we utilize this $50,000 and how much we have already so for our community event. And next question quickly, okay, 30%, okay, you basically, okay, like making money for the city. So how much roughly, okay, and the 2017-18, the 30% that you give to the city, okay, and I think okay, I hope the number is beautiful.
It's not a bad number. For Area 1, which is the area that produces more revenue, it was $203,000, not including the bonus.
Okay, very nice. Okay, and how about District 2?
District 2, for the area that we took it over for, was when we were awarded. It was 57,000 roughly, 57,300, I'm sorry, just a moment. Let me take a better look because I need to look at actually the statement for Area 2. Area 2 produced 69,631, so roughly $70,000 for the year, 30%.
Because you only took over only like 6 months, 7 months?
It's smaller area.
It's smaller area. So how long you been take over, okay, the district number 2? Okay.
This figure that I'm giving you is for the entire fiscal year.
So 70,000, and the district number 1 look like we have a $250,000. Look like that one has more toll. Okay.
Yeah, it has more volume. It has more toll.
More volume, more activity.
More activity, yes.
It's very nice. So
and historically, it's always been that way.
On the district 1, and then combined with 4, 5, and 6. So possible we making. Okay, so how about 4, 5, 6?
If I can correct, what you're looking at is the beats. So each of the beats make up the 2 service areas. So we only do have the 2 service areas, so yes.
Thank you so much. It looks like pretty good. Okay, appreciate it. Yeah, I'm thinking about $500,000. I want to squeeze more money from you, okay?
Our thinking here was really threefold, to make this a win-win-win situation. Win for the city to bring extra revenue in and to bring these 2 contracts to the same level that we're paying. Area 1 to pay the same as Area 2. Secondly, to be able to bring in revenue to help for community events. And thirdly, of course, the one would be for us that we can extend the amount of time that we're providing service.
On the community event, do you have any say to tell our city to say what kind of event you want to help? Or you just have all the right for, hopefully Chris don't waste it into general fund?
That will be up to the city to decide how they want to use the revenue.
And do you, okay, from their sponsorship of our community event, which event we have been utilized their funding?
I can't answer that question because it's what the foundation approved at last year's budget. So last year, the Community Services Foundation voted for certain events to be funded from donations. That was part of those.
Very good. But my point is, do you have any idea what kind of foundation, what kind of event being sponsored by them?
It could be anything from the Easter celebration to, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, Veterans Day, any of those events, fireworks show, anything that was used Community Services Foundation from last year.
Since we cut off everything next year, do we still have anything based on their foundation, their funding, so we should have some community event, while we have nothing next year?
That is correct. So when the foundation meets in September, October, you will decide what events to fund out of those monies.
So the city council decide how to use, or the community commissioner to decide?
We have a different body. You as a council decide.
So we can bring this out and then asking for how much money we have, and we can utilize this fund, okay, because it's separate from the general fund.
Right, but I do want to make sure I point out that the payment that we received from Royal Coaches, I believe, is in July, after the funds have been collected. So the new funds appropriate, or if the contract was moved forward, we will not realize these funds until next fiscal year, additional funds.
But now, currently, we already have some fund inside this foundation,
Oh, absolutely,
right?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Is there any more questions? Thank you, sir. That's all.
Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion by the council? If not, I'd like to make a motion to accept the proposal to amend and extend the city's towing service areas and contracts. Okay, we have a motion and a second. We have roll call, please.
Spence? Aye. Toma?
Aye.
Horshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye, passes 5-0. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hey, more money, okay, more money.
Our next item is item number 3, request from Councilman Mike Spence for the City Council to discuss taking a formal position supporting the Proposition 6 gas tax repeal initiative.
Yeah, I have had this agendized, as you know, it's on the ballot, and this particular tax and car tax increase cost a family for almost $800. And so one of the things that they're doing is saying that cities are benefiting from this. We obviously are not participating in the gas tax funding this last cycle because we couldn't meet the maintenance effort. And so I'd like to move that we, as a city, support Proposition 6.
Second?
We have a motion, second. Any discussion? Okay, Councilman Thomas.
Yeah, I'm going to abstain. I think it's up to the individual voter. We just applied for almost $1 million in grants from the California Transportation Commission, which is funded, at least in part, by SB1 for safe schools, the sidewalks and the traffic signals and whatnot. I think we should leave it to individual voters. This came up at the COG meeting, and I didn't think that we should take a position. The COG took a stance in thinking against this Proposition 6, and I voted against that. There's a number of projects that are out there, and at 5760, the bottleneck over there, I think they're expanding the 71 with the funds. So the Gold Line extension of the Claremont, there's different things, and I think, traffic and whatnot are issues here, but I think we should leave it to the individual voters to decide this.
I'll also be abstaining for some of the same reason as Councilman Toma, but also because I sit on the executive board for Foothill Transit.
Okay, now I'm not going to abstain. We already have two. But he says it's up to the individual voters. This is true. But as a council, we have to decide individual. I'm an individual, and my individual says I'm going to support Councilman Spence's motion. So we have a motion and a second. Let's have a roll call, please.
Spence? Aye. Toma?
Abstain.
Warshaw?
Abstain.
Wu?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye. It passes 3-2 to the two abstentions. 302, whatever you want to say.
302, yeah.
Okay. Now, it's number 24. Request from Councilmember James Toma for City Council to discuss taking a formal position opposing the U.S. Senate Bill 3157, streamlining small cell deployment act.
Yeah, this is basically a federal effort to do what there was legislation in the past to do, which is basically to take away local control from cities with respect to these small cell towers. And so this would do it at the national level legislation. I think we all got an email from, I believe it's the League of California Cities, asking for cities to take a position on this. We have voted to oppose the state legislation of the past that would essentially do the same thing, take away local control. So I would ask for a motion to take a formal position opposing U.S. Senate Bill 3157 for those same reasons.
I'll second it.
We have a first and second. We also have a comment by Councilman Spence.
Yeah, I just have a question. I couldn't find a legislative analysis of this. Do you have one of those that has that, James, that I could look at?
The staff did not do the good job on this one, but we know the issue very well because we did almost the exact same thing on the prior state legislation, which essentially does the same thing, so it's self-explanatory.
And where is this in the process, the legislative process, the congressional process? Where is it at?
How's it going to matter to you?
Huh? Where's it at? I'm just curious where it's at. Do you know where it's at in the process?
They do not.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We have a roll call, please.
Spence?
Aye.
Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye, passes 5-0. Number 25, request from Councilman Mike Spence for the City Council to discuss directing staff to return with a policy programming for naming city streets.
Yeah, and actually, this came up in the city of Chino Hills. One of the developers there allowed the city to auction off the name of one of the streets. And so they got like $10,000, $15,000 from somebody that wanted to name the streets after someone. And so I don't know, that seemed like a intriguing idea, at least if developers were willing to do that. Let name it.
Sound like a tax to me.
No, I mean, people can, you come up with some criteria and people can, buy a street name. And, Coca-Cola Avenue, but I mean, so it was just an idea that, it could generate a little bit of revenue, obviously, and some excitement maybe in some of the new developments and things like that. And that was really where it came from. And I think it was Lewis Homes that did it, that said they'd name it, and they had to had to work with the city to make sure that it would get named because of planning. And they had someone bid $15,000, I think it was, in order for community events. Mr. Wood. And so,
music in my ear.
It just seems like it was something that, to see if we could look at, look at that process.
How currently are city streets named?
Didn't you see the policy?
I can go through the policy, like right now, it's based on submittal from the developer and gone through the planning public works process.
And that was done by policy or by?
Microphone.
That was done by policy or by a resolution before?
It's in municipal
or-
code.
It's in the code, so we'd be
Yeah.
making a change to the code.
You could, or what, for example, Mr. Lewis and Lewis Homes is looking at potential development here in town, and they actually mentioned the idea as possibly as a fundraiser. The question is, are you looking to do this for every single street that's being proposed? Or are you looking for one as part of a subdivision? Those are the kind of things, the direction we would ask for from the council.
I think this is a way to raise money for community services, and I think besides the developer naming them, this would give others the ability to. We would have to definitely set guidelines, as we do already. Right, but I think it's a good way to raise money for the community, and we might get a lot of people to do it. So that's what I would like to see, is all streets.
Okay, quick question, okay? I think this is maybe a good idea, okay? So we can, but the only thing I worry about, so we have the higher bidder to have their name. Do we have any guideline, okay, to say what kind of, okay, name they can put over there? So you don't want an offensive name, okay? They like bid what, okay, a small this, okay? So you want to make sure, okay, is something is a tasteful, okay? And then that's a kind of, okay, a higher, okay, bidder, so. I didn't say nothing, okay? I just say Big Mike. For example, Big Mike, okay, or Small John, okay.
For those of you listening at home, you heard a loud beep.
We want to make sure we have a guideline for those names. You got too happy, okay? This is a very serious agenda, okay? So anyway, I think we should have some kind of a ordinance regarding what kind of name, okay, is required.
Obviously, it's not something that's probably, I don't know what the interest is and stuff like that, but I thought it's something we should at least, it seemed like a good opportunity to explore. So I'd like to move that we have direct staff to come back with ways that we could possibly do that.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Spence.
Aye.
Toma.
Aye.
Warshaw.
Aye.
Wu.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Okay, that's the end of it. Is there any comments from the council? Any AB 1, 2, 3, 4s or? Gentlemen, did we hear that? Is there any AB 1, 2, 3, 4s, Reverend Collins?
I attended St. River Valley Public Affairs Network, their Sacramento update. So, as you specific. It was a great report.
Anything else? Okay, I'm making a motion to adjourn, so we are adjourned.